it says adults only on it because there's a little bit of Rod does a little bit of veiled homo stuff.
Well, and that's how people have just been introduced to us on YouTube.
Hello, world.
Well, it gets worse.
No, yeah, no, it just keeps going. I just thought it was a funny intro. Hello, so I've got this album.
If I'd known, I could have done much better than that.
Yeah. Well, it was honest. It was on. That's what counts.
My record player's broken. The turntable's broken, so I'm pretty upset about that because I got a lot of albums I like to be playing.
Mine's not.
We'll bring them over to you. We'll have a record party at your house with our masks.
We can
Put the speakers out the window.
Digitizing record party. I'm a digitizing ace, as Brian knows.
All right, everybody.
All true.
We're all here. So I went ahead and started the YouTube live. So I guess we'll do a quick cast list at the end. Would that be better? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The Women, a 2-act play by Clare Booth Luce from 1936. Act 1, Scene 1. Mary Haynes' living room. Today, Park Avenue living rooms are decorated with a significant indifference to the fact that ours is still a bisexual society. Period peacock alleys, crystal-hung prima donna roosts, they reflect the good taste of their mistresses in everything but a consideration of the master's pardonable right to fit in his own home decor. Mary Haynes' living room is not like that. It would be thought a comfortable room for a man. This without sacrificing its own subtle feminine charm. Above the fireplace is a charming portrait of Mary's children. There's a door to the living quarters, another to the hall, a sofa, armchair, tea table, roof, and in the good light from the window, a bridge table group. As the curtain rises, Jane, a pretty and quite correct little Irish-American maid, is arranging the tea table. 4 women are playing bridge in a smoking car cloud of smoke. They are Nancy, who is sharp but not acidic, sleek but not smart, a worldly and yet virginal 35. Her partner is Peggy, who is pretty and sweet, 25. Peggy's character has not and never will quite gel. Sylvia, who is glassy and elegant and feline, is 34, and her partner is Edith, who is a sloppy, expensively dressed matron of 33 or 34. She is indifferent to everything but self. Edith is incapable of either deliberate maliciousness or spontaneous generosity.
So I said to Howard, what do you expect to do? Stay home and darn your socks? What do we all have money for? Why do we keep servants?
You don't keep them long, God knows. Yours, Peggy.
Isn't it Mrs. Potter's? I opened with 4 spades.
Secondhand you did. And went down 1,000. Peggy, my pet, you can't afford it.
I can too, Sylvia. I'm not a pauper.
If your bridge doesn't improve, you soon will be.
Oh, shut up, Sylvia. She's only playing till Mary comes down.
It's that lingerie woman you sent, Mrs. Fowler.
Oh, well, I didn't expect Mrs. Haynes to buy anything. I was just trying to get rid of the creature. Peggy did.
Oh, mine? Bye.
She won't concentrate.
She's in love, bless her. After the child's been married as long as you girls, she may be able to concentrate on vital matters, like bridge.
Another lecture on the modern woman.
At the drop of a hat. Bye.
I consider myself a perfectly good wife. I've sacrificed a lot for Howard Fowler, 2 spades. I devote as much time to my children as any of my friends.
Except Mary.
Oh, Mary, of course. Mary is an exception to all of us.
Quite right. Peggy?
2 no trumps?
Edith, not again.
Morning sickness. Oh, I heaved the whole darn day. This is positively the last time I go through this lousy business for any man. 4 spades. If men had to bear babies, there'd never be
More than one child in a family. Bye.
I wish I could have a baby. We can't afford one now.
Ugh, and you'll never be able to until you know Gorn. Honestly, Edith, why didn't you show a slam?
Oh, I have got to unswallow. Oh, wait till you've had four, Peggy. You wish you'd never gotten past the bees and the flowers.
Poor, frightened, bewildered Madonna.
I'm devoted to Edith Potter, but she does get me down. You'd think she had a hard time. Dr. Briggs says she's like shelling peas. She ought to go through what I went through. Nobody knows.
No clubs, partner?
I had a cesarean. You should see my stomach. It's a slam.
Are you sure?
Got the king? Peggy? Yeah, thanks, dear. It's a slam. And the rubber. But I've kept my figure. I must say I don't blame Phelps Potter for playing around.
Oh, does her husband?
Phelps has made passes as all us girls. I do think it's bad taste for a man to make his friends' wives, especially when he's bald and fat. I told him once, Phelps Potter, I said, the next time you grab at me, I'm going straight to Edith.
And did you?
Oh, certainly not. I wouldn't say anything to hurt Edith for all the world. Besides, it isn't necessary. I'll say one thing for Edith. She's not as dumb as some of my friends. She's on to her husband.
Do you think he's on to her?
What do you mean?
If he could only hear her talk about him.
Listen, Peggy, do we know how men talk about us when we're not around?
I've heard rumors.
Exactly. Peggy, you haven't been married long enough to form a realistic opinion of your husband.
Well, if I had one, I'd keep it to myself. Do you think I'd tell anybody in the world about the quarrels John and I have over money? I'd be too proud.
All over, dear?
Oh, that was a false alarm. What happened?
Only a slam, dear. You do underbid.
I'll bet you had me on the pan.
I never say behind my friends' backs what I won't say to their faces. I said you ought to diet.
Oh, there's no use dieting in my condition. I've got to wait until I can begin from scratch. Besides, I've got the most wonderful cook. She was with Mary. She said Mary let her go because she was too extravagant. I think this cook Mary has is too homey. Oh, watercress. I'd just as soon eat my way across the front lawn.
I think Mary's gone terribly off this winter. Have you noticed those deep lines like here?
Smiling lines. Tragic, aren't they?
Perhaps they are. Maybe a woman's headed for trouble when she begins to get too smug.
Smug? Don't you mean happy?
Mr. Haynes adores her so.
Yeah, doesn't he?
You just can't bear it, Sylvia, can you?
Bear what?
Mary's happiness, it gets you down.
Nancy Blake. If there's one thing I can say for myself, I've never been jealous of another woman. Why should I be jealous of Mary?
Because she's contented to be what she is.
Which is what?
A woman.
And what, in the name of my revolting condition, am I?
A female.
Really? And what are you, Pat?
What nature abhors. I'm a virgin, a frozen asset.
I wish I were a virgin again. The only fun I ever had was holding out on Phelps. Nancy, you ought to thank God every night you don't have to make sacrifices for some man.
I wish I could make a little money writing the way you do, Miss Blake.
If you wrote the way I do, that's just what you'd make.
You're not exactly a popular author, are you, dear?
Not with you. Well, good news, Sylvia. My book is finished, and once again, I'm about to leave your midst.
Oh, I wish we could afford to travel. Where are you going next time, Miss Blake?
Africa, shooting.
Well, darling, I don't blame you. I'd rather face a tiger any day than the sort of things the critics are about. You know, your last book.
Oh, sorry, girls. Sylvia, must you always send me woebegone creatures like that lingerie woman? It's been a very expensive half hour for me.
For me too, Mrs. Haynes.
Nonsense, Peggy. You were playing for me. Here. Don't open it now. It's a bed jacket or a tea cozy or something padded. I wouldn't know. I was crying too hard.
You didn't believe that woman's sob story.
Oh, of course I did. Anyway, she's a lot worse off than you and I. Edith Wee-Garments.
Darling, how sweet. Oh my God, I'm sick as a cat.
It's a girl. Girls always make you sicker.
Even before they're born?
I don't care what it is. I've lost everything, including my curiosity. Oh, why did God make it take 9 months?
It takes an elephant 7 years.
I wish I were an elephant. I'll look like one anyway before I'm finished. And it would be heaven not to worry for 7 years.
Oh, Edith, it is rather trying. But when it's all over, isn't it the grandest thing in the world to have them?
Ma'am, Mr. Haynes would like to speak to you on the phone.
Oh, I can feel what it is in my bones, Jane. Stephen's going to be kept at the office again tonight.
Give him my love, pet.
I will.
Nancy, you couldn't be more wrong about me and Mary.
Still rankling.
Jealous? As a matter of fact, I feel sorry for her.
Oh, why?
Well, for all we know, she may be living in a fool's paradise with Stephen.
Let's check on that for one moment, Sylvia. Jane, are the children in?
Yes, miss. Just back from the park.
Oh, I'd love to see Mrs. Haynes' little girl, Miss Flake.
Come along, child. Anyway, it's our turn to go on to the pan. But we don't have to worry. You've got a poor man. I've got no man at all.
This is positively the last time I play bridge with Nancy. She never misses a chance to get in a dig. What has a creature like her got but her friends? The way she kept at you about Mary made me so nervous. I thought I'd scream. And in my condition.
Edith, I've got to tell you, I'll burst if I wait.
I knew you had something.
You'll die. Stephen Haynes is cheating on Mary.
I don't believe you. Is it true?
Wait until you hear. You know, I go to Michael's for my hair, right? You ought to go, pet. I despise whoever's doing yours. Anyway, well, there's this most wonderful new manicurist there. I mean, look at my nails. Isn't that divine? Jungle red.
It's simply divine. Go on.
It all came out in the most extraordinary way. This morning, I tried to get you on the phone.
I was in the tub. Go on.
This manicurist, she's marvelous. She was doing my nails. And I was looking through Vogue, you know, the one with Mary in the Junior League ball costume.
Yes, in that white wig that flattered her so much.
Okay, well, this manicurist, oh, Mrs. Fowler, she said, isn't that Mrs. Haynes who's awful rich?
It's funny how people like that think people like us are awfully rich.
Well, I forget what she said next, but you know, those creatures are like, and they just never let up. Well, anyway, suddenly she says, oh, I know the girl who's been kept by Mr. Haynes.
No.
I swear.
Is she someone we know?
No. That's what's so awful about it. She's a friend of the manicurist. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if Stephen had picked someone, you know, in his own class, but a blonde floozy?
But how did Stephen ever meet a girl like that?
How do men ever meet girls like that? You know, that's what they live for, the rats.
But
I can't go into all the, I can't go into all the details now. But they're utterly fantastic.
You suppose Mary knows?
No. Mary's the kind who couldn't help showing if she knew.
Oh, she has no self-control. This cake. Well, she's bound to find out. If a woman's got any instincts, she feels when her husband's off the reservation. I know I would.
Oh, of course you would, darling. Not Mary. No. If there were only some way to warn her.
Sylvia, you're not going to tell her.
No, certainly not. I'd die before I'd be the one to hurt her like that.
Couldn't someone shut that manicurist up?
With a good story like that, a lot of girls that they don't care whose life they ruin.
Isn't it a dirty trick?
Isn't it foul? It's not like as though only Mary's friends knew. I mean, we could keep our mouths shut.
I know plenty that I would never breathe about my friends' husbands.
So do I. All right. Anyway, the whole thing's disgustingly unfair to Mary. I absolutely feel sick about it, just knowing about it.
Oh, I adore Mary.
I
But
worship her. I worship her, and she is my dearest friend in all the world.
Well, Sylvia, feeling better?
Meaning what?
Must have been a choice piece of gossip. You both look so relaxed.
Nancy, were you listening at the door?
Oh, Mrs. Fowler? We were in the nursery.
Oh, well, darling, how is Stephen, the old dear? And did you give him my love?
I did. Stephen's not so well, Sylvia.
No, what's the trouble?
Nervous indigestion. That's why I have such a plain cook now.
Phelps has had indigestion for years. You should hear that man rumble in the night. It's like a truck on cobblestones.
So there's nothing worrying, Stephen?
Oh, no. He's just been working too hard. He's not coming home tonight.
Are you sure it's work, darling, and not a beautiful blonde?
Stephen? Oh, Sylvia.
Sylvia, let's play another rubber.
Stephen is a very attractive man.
Isn't he? I can't imagine why he hasn't deserted me for some glamorous creature long ago.
Mary, you do sound smug.
Oh, let me be, Nancy. How can you be too sure of what you believe in most?
I wouldn't be sure of the Apostle Paul. I always tell Howard, if you manage to make a fool of me, I'll deserve what I get.
You certainly will. Now, Sylvia, let's have it.
Have what?
Just what did you mean when you said Mary was living in a fool's paradise?
What?
Nancy, don't be absurd. Mary, I was just trying to make a typical Nancy Blake wisecrack about marriage. I said, a woman's paradise is always a fool's paradise.
Well, that's not bad, is it, Nancy? Well, Sylvia, whatever I'm living in, I like it. Nancy, cut.
Mary, how do you like my new nail polish?
Oh,
2-2-2.
You can't imagine how it stays on. I get it at Michael's. There's a terrific new manicurist there.
oh, Sylvia.
Olga is her name. She's out of this world.
Will you cut, Sylvia?
It's called Jungle Red.
Just the thing for tearing your friends apart.
I'll be damned. Nancy, if I'll let you ride me like this anymore.
Now, Sylvia, Nancy's just being clever too.
She's taking a crack at everything about me, even my nails.
Well, I like it. I really do. It's new and chic. Michael's, Olga, Jungle Red. I'll remember that. You and I, Sylvia. I feel lucky today.
Do you, darling? Well, you know what they say. Lucky in cards.
Hey, Jay, what are you doing?
The curtain falls. Act 1, Scene 2. An afternoon a few days later. A hairdressing booth in Michael's. An elegantly functioned cubbyhole. There is a recessed mirror on the wall. From a high partition pole, a curtain falls to the floor. The rear wall is a clean partition, a swivel hairdressing chair. Above it, from an aluminum tree, the hanging thicket of a permanent wave machine. In the wall are gablets for curling irons, electric outlets which connect with wires to drying machines, a hand dryer, manicurist's table light, stools for pedicurists and manicurists, Olga, and the manicurist Olga. As the curtain rises, the booth is, to put it mildly, full. The Comtesse de Lage, an amiable, silly, fat, and 40th heiress type, is in the chair having her hair dried. Olga, at her right, is doing her nails. Her fat, bare feet rest in the lap of a pedicurist. The first hairdresser applies the dye, and the second hairdresser, watch in hand, times the operation. The Countess, apparently inured to public execution, smokes, reads a magazine on her lap, occasionally nibbles a sandwich with Olga, and occasionally nibbles a sandwich which Olga passes to her from a tray near her instruments.
Stuff is burning my scalp, mon Dieu!
Be brave. 1 minute more.
Oh!
It's going to be so worth it, Countess.
It's dribbling down my neck!
Brave.
My nerves! Oh, my God. My sandwich.
10 seconds. We must suffer to be beautiful.
The curtain parts and a figure in flowing white half enters. It is, judging by the voice, a woman, but its face is completely obliterated by a mud mask. It's actually Miriam, but whoops, I thought I was in here. Why, hi, Countess Delage. Guess who I am? She peers over this intruder's shoulder at first, and it looks like another mud mask, but it is not. It is the colored, I don't like that part. It is Yuffie. She clutches the shoulder of the mud mask. You mustn't talk, Miss Ahrens. You'll crack your mud mask.
I think we lost Miriam.
Did we lose
No,
Miriam?
sorry. Miriam lost. I lost my place. Hold on one second. Oh.
Page
I'm so
15.
sorry.
Page 15, the right.
Page 15, the right. Okay. Which line? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You mustn't talk, Miss Ahrens. You'll crack your mud mask.
I was half cracked to let you put this glop on me.
Who was that?
Miriam Ahrens.
Who?
Miriam Ahrens. She's playing in the Vanities.
Does she know me?
Oh, everybody knows you, Countess Delage. You're in the society columns almost every day.
Miriam Ahrens? Oh, the funny thing about me, I have no memory for names or faces. I suppose she came to one of my parties. I never know who the Count's going to ask. For an aristocrat, mon Dieu, is he democratic?
Oh, I've seen pictures of the Count. He's awfully handsome.
What does a mud mask do for you?
Tightens the chin and the throat muscles. Brings on a natural glow.
Miriam Ahrens has lovely skin.
Not lovelier than yours, Countess. Oh, yes, yours is so lovely. It's not your everybody is
so lovely.
So
I do think it's rather good for a woman my age.
You mustn't talk as if you were an old woman, Countess dear.
After all, I'm 45.
You mustn't tell anyone. You don't look a day over 40.
You look so
young. It's like
Not 40. I'm 40.
Like, how young are you anyway? Haven't you slimmed down since last year?
My last divorce took off 10 pounds. I think I'll have a mud mask.
Tell the desk Countess Delage is working in a mud.
Très gay, n'est-ce pas?
Oh, no, we don't have Trey Gay. That's Jungle Red. Everybody's wild about it. Mrs. Howard Fowler wears it. You know Mrs. Fowler, the best dressed woman in New York City.
There, dear. The agony's over. We'll move on to the shampoo. Yuffie, clear this booth.
We won't put your stockings on yet, Countess. We don't want to smear your beautiful big toe.
Oh. Allons enfants de la patrie, on to the mud mask.
Oh, that old gasoline truck, 52 if she's a day. One more permanent, she wouldn't have a hair left on her head.
She sure does shed.
Oh, and I'll bet this husband sheds her in a year. A woman is a fool to marry a man 10 years younger. Know what I heard a client under the dryer tell a friend? The Count's a pansy.
Countess Delage forgot her bag.
Retrieves the bag from the floor. It is open. She is about to close it when she looks in and laughs, pulling out a leather whiskey flask. She shows it without comment to Yuffie, then drops it back in the bag and exits. Yuffie starts to follow, then holds back the curtain as Mary enters, followed by Nancy.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So as I say, I woke up this morning, and for no good reason, I felt the time has come to change my hairdo.
Mr. Michael will be 10 minutes, madam. Anyone in particular for your manicure?
I'd like the girl who does Miss Fowler's nail.
Olga, I'll see.
God, I'd love to do Mrs. Fowler's nails right down to the wrist with a nice buzz saw.
Is all right. She's a good friend underneath.
Underneath what?
Nancy, you don't know humor your friends enough.
So that's the big idea coming here? You're humoring Sylvia?
Oh, you did hurt her. I had it all over again at lunch. Nancy, am I getting old?
Who put that in your head? Sylvia?
Tell me the truth.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and twaddle to that effect.
But it's such a scary feeling when you see those little wrinkles creeping in.
Time's little mice.
And that first gleam of white in your hair. It's the way you feel about autumn if you knew there'd never be another spring.
There's only one tragedy for a woman.
Growing old?
Losing her man.
That's why we're all afraid of growing old.
Are you afraid?
Well, I was very pretty when I was young. I never thought about it twice then. Now I know it's why Stephen loved me.
Smart girl.
Now I think about it all the time.
Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds. Shakespeare.
Well, he told me on my birthday I'd always look the same to him.
Nice present. No jewels?
It rained that day. He bought me a bottle of perfume called Summer Rain.
How many ounces?
Nancy, you've never been in love.
Says who?
Have you?
Yes.
You never told me.
You never asked. Neither did he. Here, innocent. The book my readers everywhere have been waiting for with such marked apathy.
All the Dead Ladies?
Originally called From the Silence of the Womb. My publisher thought that would make too much noise.
What's it about?
Women I dislike. Ladies.
Oh, Nancy.
Soak it, please.
No good? Too bad. It's a parting shot. I'm off.
Off?
Africa.
But not today.
I knew if I told you that you'd scurry around and do things, a party. Streamer baskets of sour fruit. Not nearly as sour as the witty cables your girlfriends would send me. So don't move. No tears. For my sake. Just soak it. Goodbye, Mary.
Goodbye, Nancy. I'll miss you.
I doubt it. Practically nobody ever misses a clever woman.
Funny, isn't she?
She's a darling.
She's a writer? How do those writers think up all those plots? I guess the plot part's not so hard to think up as the end. I guess anybody's life would make an interesting plot if it had an interesting end. Mrs. Fowler sent you in? She sent me 3 clients this week. Know the Countess DeLay? Well, she inherited this fortune when her first husband died, and...
I don't know her.
Soak it, please.
Yes.
No, Mrs. Potter? She's pregnant again.
Yeah, I know.
Soak it, please. No, Mrs. Stevens Haynes?
I certainly do.
Well, I guess Mrs. Fowler's told you about her. Mrs. Fowler feels awfully sorry for her.
Oh, she does? Well,
Oh, you would if you knew this Crystal Allen.
Crystal Allen?
Oh, yes, you know. The girl who's living with Mr. Haynes. Don't you like the file? Mrs. Potter says it sets her unborn child's teeth on edge.
Oh, whoever told you such a thing?
Oh, I thought you knew. Didn't Mrs. Fowler?
No.
Then you will be interested. You see, Crystal Allen is a friend of mine. She's really a terrible man trap. Soak it, please. She's behind the perfume counter at Saks. So was I before I got fired. I left. That's how she met him.
Met Stephen Haynes.
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago. Us girls weren't busy. It was an awful rainy day, I remember. So this gentleman walks up to the counter. He was this serious type, nice looking, but kind of thin on top. Well, Crystal nabs him. I want some perfume, he says. May I ask what type of woman for? Crystal says, very ritzy. That didn't mean a thing. She was going to sell him our feature, Summer Rain, anyway. Is she young? Crystal says. No, he says, sort of embarrassed. Is she the glamorous type? Crystal says. No, thank God, he says. Thank God. Crystal says and bats her eyes. She's got those eyes which run up and down a man like a searchlight. Well, she puts perfume on her palm and the crook of her arm for him to smell. So he got to smelling around and I guess he liked it. Because we heard him tell her his name, which one of the girls recognized from Igor Cassini's column. She get nervous. Well, it was after that I left. I wouldn't have thought no more about it, but a couple of weeks ago I stopped by Crystal Lives to say hello, and the landlady said she'd moved to the kind of house where she could entertain her gentleman friend. What gentleman friend, I says? Well, that Mr. Haynes, that she's had up in her room all hours of the night, the landlady says. Did I hurt?
No, but I don't really think I need a manicure.
Just polish one coat or two.
No,
But I thought that's what you came for. All Mrs. Fowler's friends.
I think I've gotten what all Mrs. Fowler's friends come for.
Oh, thanks. Well, goodbye. I'll tell her you were in, Mrs.
Mrs. Stephen Haynes.
Mrs. Oh, gee. Gee, Mrs. Haynes, I'm sorry. Oh, isn't there something I can do?
Stop telling that story.
Oh, sure I will.
And please don't tell anyone that you told it to me.
Oh, I won't. Gee, I promise. Gee, that would be kind of humiliating for you. But in a way, Mrs. Haynes, I'm kind of glad you know. Crystal's a terrible girl. I mean, she's terribly clever and she's terribly pretty, Mrs. Haynes. I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't waste no time getting Mr. Haynes away from her.
Thank you. Good day.
Not too hot, my sinus. So she said, I wouldn't want anybody in the world to know. And I said, my dear, you know you can trust me.
The curtain falls. Act 1, Scene 3. An hour later in Mary's boudoir. Charming, of course. There is a door to the bedroom, a door to the hall, a chaise lounge next to it, and a table with books, flowers, and a phone, and a dressing table. As the curtain rises, Mary is discovered on the chaise lounge, twisting a damp handkerchief in her hands. Jane enters from the hall, carrying a tea tray.
Looked like you needed a cup of tea when you came in, ma'am.
I do. I have a sudden headache, and Jane, my mother will be here in a few minutes. A cup for her.
Yes, ma'am.
May I see you, Mrs. Haynes?
Of course, Mrs. Fordyce.
Well, it's about little Mary. Really, Mrs. Haynes, you'll have to talk to your child. She just smacked her little brother hard, pure temper.
What did little Stevie do to her, Mrs. Fordyce?
Well, you see, it happened while I was down getting my tea. When I came up, she had such a tantrum, she made herself ill. She positively refuses to discuss the incident with me, but I'm quite sure the dear boy hadn't done a thing.
You're very apt to take the boy's side, Miss Fordyce.
Well, not at all, but in England, Mrs. Haynes, our girls are not so wretchedly spoiled. After all, this is a man's world. The sooner our girls are taught to accept the fact.
Send her in to me, Mrs. Fordyce. Oh, Jane, I don't understand it. Miss Fordyce really prefers Mary, but she insists we all make a little god of Stevie.
Them English ones always stand up for the boys. But they say since the war, ma'am, there's 6 women over there to every man. Competition is something fierce. Over here, men aren't so scarce. You can treat them the way they deserve.
Enter little Mary. She is a broad-browed, thoughtful, healthy little girl, physically well developed for her age.
Where's Mother?
You're going to catch it, smacking your little brother. Such a dear, sweet little lad. Shame. I'll bet you wish you were Mother's girl instead of Daddy's girl today, don't you? What's the matter? The cat got your tongue?
Enter Mary wearing a negligee.
Hello, darling. Aren't you going to kiss me? What red eyes?
I was mad. I threw up. When you throw up, doesn't it make you cry?
Stevie tease you? Well, darling?
Mother, I don't know how to begin.
Come here. Would you rather wait until tonight and tell Dad?
Oh, Mother, I couldn't tell him, and I'd be killed to death before I'd tell skinny old Miss Fordyce.
That's not the way for my dear little girl to talk.
Want to be a dear little girl. Oh, Mother dear, Mother dear.
Baby, what?
What brother said?
What did he say, the wretched boy?
He said I had bumps.
Bumps? You don't mean mumps?
No, bumps. He said I was covered with disgusting bumps.
Mary, where?
Here and here.
Oh. Of course you have bumps, darling. Very pretty little bumps.
But Mother dear, I don't want to be a little girl. I hate girls. They're so silly and they tattle.
Not really, Mary.
Yes, Mother, I know. Oh, Mother, what fun is there to be a lady? What can a lady do?
These days, darling, ladies do all the things men do. They fly airplanes across the ocean. They go into politics and business.
You don't, Mother.
Perhaps I'm happier doing just what I do.
What do you do, Mother?
Take care of you and Stevie and Dad.
You don't, Mother. Miss Fordyce and the servants do.
I see. I'm not needed around here.
Oh, Mother, I don't mean that. It wouldn't be any fun at all without you, but Mother, even when the ladies do things, they stop it when they get the lovey-doveys.
The what?
Like in the movies, Mother, ladies always end up so silly. Lovey-dovey all the time.
Darling, you're too young to understand.
But Mother.
But Mother, there's one thing a woman can do, no man can do.
What?
Have a child, like you.
Oh, that. Everybody knows that. But is that any fun, Mother dear?
Fun? No, but it is joy of a very special kind.
Well, never sounded especially exciting to me. I love you, Mother, but I bet you say anything you like. Daddy has more fun than you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mother, but you just don't understand. Am I to be punished, Mother?
What do you think?
I smacked him awful hard. Shall I punish myself?
It will have to be pretty bad.
Then I won't go down to breakfast with Daddy tomorrow or next day. Okay, Mother?
Okay.
There's my tongue. So what? Jane.
She never lets anybody get the best of her. Does she, Mrs. Haynes?
My poor baby. She doesn't want to be a woman, Jane.
Who does?
Somehow I've never minded it, Jane.
Mrs. Moorhead. She is a gorgeous aristocrat of 55. Mary rises and kisses her mother.
Hello, child. Afternoon, Jane.
Afternoon, Mrs. Moorhead.
Mother dear.
Well, what's wrong?
How do you know something's wrong?
Your voice on the phone. Is it Stephen?
How did you know?
You sent for Mother, so it must be.
I don't know how to begin, Mother.
It's a woman. Who is she?
Her name is Crystal Allen. She's a sales girl at Saks.
Young and pretty, I suppose.
Well, yes, but common.
Of course. Stephen told you?
No, I found out this afternoon.
How far has it gone?
He's known her about 3 months.
Does Stephen know you know?
I wanted to speak to you first. Oh, Mother dear, what am I going to say to him?
Nothing.
Nothing?
My dear, I felt the very same way 20 years ago.
Not father.
Mary, in many ways, your father was an exceptional man. That, unfortunately, was not one of them.
Did you say nothing?
Nothing. I had a wise mother, too. Listen, dear, this is not a new story. It comes to most wives.
But Stephen.
Stephen is a man. He's been married 12 years.
You mean he's tired of me?
Stop crying. You'll make your nose red.
I'm not crying. This stuff stings.
Stephen's tired of himself. Tired of feeling the same things in himself year after year. Time comes when man's got to feel something new. When he's got to feel young again, just because he's growing old. Women are just the same, but when we get that way, we change our hairdress, or get a new cook, or redecorate the house from stem to stern. But a man can't do over his office or fire his secretary. Not even change the style of his hair. And the urge usually hits him hardest just when he's beginning to lose his hair. No, dear, a man has only one escape from his old self, to see a different self in the mirror of some woman's eyes.
But Mother.
This girl probably means no more to him than that new dress means to you.
But Mother.
But Mother. He's not giving anything to her that belongs to you, or you would have felt that yourself long ago.
Oh, I always thought I would. I love him so much.
And he loves you, baby. Now listen to me. Go away somewhere for a month or two. There's nothing like a good dose of another woman to make a man appreciate his wife. Mother knows.
But there's never been a lie between us before.
You mean there's never been a silence between you before? Well, it's about time. Keeping still when you ache to talk is about the only sacrifice spoiled women like us ever have to make.
But I'd forgive him.
Forgive him? For what? For being a man? Accuse him and you'll never get a chance to forgive him. He'd just have to justify himself.
Can he?
He can't and he can. Don't make him try. Either way, you lose him. And remember, dear, it's being together at the end that really matters. One more piece of motherly advice. Don't confide in your girlfriends.
I think they all know.
They think you don't. Leave it that way. If you let them advise you, they'll see to it in the name of friendship that you lose your husband and your home. I'm an old woman, dear, and I know my sex. I'm going right down this minute and get our tickets.
Our tickets?
You're taking me to Bermuda, dear. My throat's been awfully bad. I haven't wanted to worry you, but my doctor says it.
Oh, Mother, darling, thank you.
Don't thank me, dear. It's rather nice to have you need Mother again.
Yes? Oh, Stephen. Yes, dear. Oh, Stephen. Oh, no, I'm not angry. It's just that I wanted to see the play. Yes, I can get Mother to go with me. Stephen, will you be very late? Oh, it's all right. Have a good time. Of course, I know it's just business. No, dear, I won't wait up. Stephen, I love...
The other end has hung up. Jane enters. Mary turns her back. Her face would belie the calmness of her voice.
Jane, the children and I will be having dinner alone.
The curtain falls. Act 1, Scene 4. 2 months later, in a dressmaker shop, we see 2 fitting booths, the same in appointment, a triplex pier glasses, dress racks, smoking stands, 2 small chairs. They are divided by a mirrored partition. At the rear of each booth, a curtain and a door off of a corridor, which leads to the floor. As the curtain rises, the booth on the left is empty. The other booth is cluttered with dresses. 2 salesgirls are loading them over their arms.
Well, now you can put them all back again. Makes you drag out everything in the damn store and doesn't even buy a brassiere.
And that's the kind who always needs one.
This isn't her type. That isn't her type. I'd like to tell her what a type is.
I'd like to know.
It's the type that nobody gives a damn about. Gee, I'd like to work in a men's shop once. What can a man try on?
Ever see a man try on hats? What they go through, you think a head was something mighty peculiar.
Miss Myrtle, step in here a moment.
Yes, Miss Shapiro.
If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. When you're modeling that dress, your stomach must lead. If you walk like this, you take away all the seduction. This is seduction.
I'll try, Miss Shapiro. But if you had my appendicitis...
Well, Miss Myrtle, you can take your choice. You will either lose your job or lose your appendix.
Quickly, please. I have a client waiting.
Bring down Mrs. Haynes' fittings.
Will you open a charge?
Please.
May I have the name?
Allen, Miss Crystal Allen, the Hotel Waverly.
May I have your other charges? Saks, Bergdorf's, Cartier?
Oh, I'll be opening those in a few days.
Then may I have your bank?
I have no checking account either at the moment.
Shall we show the things that... Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Was that mine?
No, I just said enter Mary in her booth.
I'm sorry, I've lost my place.
28. Shall we show the things?
Shall we show the things that came in while you were away?
Please, but I'd like to see some younger things than I usually wear.
I'm very sorry, Miss Allen, but we must have one business reference.
I am a friend of Miss Miriam Ahrens, you know, the musical comedy star.
Oh, yes, Miss Ahrens, one of our new accounts. Miss Ahrens had excellent business references.
Such as Howard Fowler, the broker.
Why, yes, I believe he is her broker.
Well, if a broker reference will do, it's Mr. Stephen Haynes, 40 Wall Street.
That will do. Mrs. Haynes is a very old client of ours.
Oh?
Will you try on now or finish seeing the collection?
Have the model show in here. By the way, I've never met Mrs. Haynes.
Oh, she's lovely.
So I'd rather you didn't mention to her that I gave her husband as a reference. Do you mind?
Oh, of course not, Miss Allen. We understand.
Do you? What do you understand?
I mean...
Never mind.
Please, I hope you don't think I meant...
Of course not. Oh, it's so dreadful living in a strange city alone. You have to be so careful not to do anything people can misconstrue. You see, I don't know Mrs. Haynes yet, so I'd hate to get off on the wrong foot before I've met her socially.
Naturally. Women are funny about things like that. We never discuss one client with another.
Enter Sylvia.
Yoo-hoo, may I come in?
Hello, Sylvia.
What are you most interested in, Miss Allen? Evening gowns?
Until I organize my social life, I won't have much use for evening gowns.
I'll show you some smart daytime things. And we have very exciting negligees.
Oh, sit down, Sylvia.
I don't like the underslung line. It cuts across the fanny, makes her look positively duck-bottomed.
It's so tight. Mrs. Fowler can't sit down.
Mrs. Fowler, shall I see your fittings are ready?
They'll call me.
Have you seen that?
It's a lovely shape on. It doesn't look like a thing in the hand. Tell Princess Tamara to show this model.
So, you've had a marvelous time in Bermuda.
I had a good rest.
Howard wants me to take a world cruise. By the way, dear, how is Stephen?
Splendid. He's not nearly so busy. He hasn't spent an evening in the office since I came home. Pretty, but I never need a thing like that.
Of course you don't. It's a hot little number for intimate afternoons. Howard says nobody's seen Stephen in the club in the afternoon for months.
Don't worry so much about Stephen, Sylvia. He's my concern.
This is our new one-piece lace foundation garment. Zips up the back and no bones.
Just that uplift. Mary, you need. I always said you'd regret nursing. Look at me. I don't think there's another girl our age who can boast a set of bazooms like mine. I've taken great care of them. Ice water every morning, camphor at night.
Doesn't it smell rather like an old fur coat?
Who cares?
Well, doesn't Howard?
Howard with his prostate condition.
Princess Tamara, show in here.
Oh, Tamara, how lovely.
You must have it. Stephen would be amazed.
He certainly would. It's too extreme for me.
And you really haven't the figure. Tomorrow you wear it all wrong. I saw it in Vogue. Up here, down here.
Stop mauling me.
Princess!
What do you know how to wear clothes?
I am not a model tomorrow, but no one disputes how I wear clothes.
No one has mistaken you for the Duchess of Windsor yet?
Princess Tamara, please apologize.
It's just professional jealousy. They both wear clothes so beautifully. They're really friends.
You mean Tamara and Howard are friends?
You accuse me of flirting with your husband?
Oh, go as far as you can, Tamara. If I know Howard, you're wasting valuable time.
Perhaps I am, but perhaps somebody else is not. You are riding for a fall-off, Sylvia, dear.
Did you get that innuendo? I'd like to see Howard Fowler put anything over me. I've always hated that girl, exploiting her title every way she does.
Princess Tamara, show in here to Miss Allen, please.
Girls, showing number 3 to Miss Allen.
Did you say Miss Allen?
Yes.
Not Crystal Allen.
Why, yes. I just saw her on the floor. She's so attractive, I asked her name.
Oh, so Crystal Allen gets her things here now.
She's a new client. Why, Mrs. Haynes, are you ill?
No, I'm just tired.
We've kept you standing too long. I'll get you a glass of sherry.
I'm going to have that if I have to wear it for breakfast.
Send it in here, Princess.
Mary, do you know? You do know. Why didn't you confide in me?
Sylvia, go away.
Stephen is a louse, spending your money on a girl like that.
Sylvia, please mind your own affairs.
She's already made a fool of you before all your friends. And don't you think the sales girls knew about who's getting the bills?
I don't care, I tell you. I don't care.
Oh, yes, you do. Don't be an ostrich, Mary. Go in there and face her down.
I'm going home.
Mrs. Haynes, sherry.
All right. You've caught her cold. It's your chance to humiliate her. Just say a few quiet words. Tell her you'll make Stephen's life hell until he gives her up.
Stephen will give her up when he's tired of her.
When he's tired of her? Look where she was 6 months ago. Look where she is now. She probably has an apartment to go with those kinds of clothes.
Stephen's not in love with that girl.
Maybe not, but you don't know women like that when they get a hold of a man.
Sylvia, please, let me decide what is best for me and my home.
Crystal in her booth has been undressing, admiring herself as she does so in the mirror. Now she slips into a really exciting negligee. During the scene going on in Mary's booth, she tries to get out of the negligee easily. She can't.
Well, she may be a perfectly marvelous influence for Stephen, but she's not going to do your children any good.
What do you mean?
Never mind.
Tell me.
Far be it from me to tell you things you don't care to hear. I've known this all along. Have I uttered?
What have my children to do with this?
It was while you were away. Edith saw them, Stephen and that tramp and your children together, lunching in the park.
It's not true.
Why would Edith lie? She said they were having a hilarious time. Little Stevie was eating his lunch, sitting on that woman's lap. She was kissing him between every bite. And when I heard that, I was positively heartsick.
Oh, go get that evening gown. This thing is too complicated to get out of.
Right away, Miss Allen.
But as you say, dear, it's your affair, not mine. No doubt that girl will make a perfectly good stepmama to your children.
She exits. Mary, now dressed, is alone. She stares at the partition which separates her from that still unmeasured enemy to her well-ordered domesticity, the other woman. Her common sense dictates she should go home, but now she violently experiences the ache to talk. She struggles against it, then goes, bitterly determined, to the door. A second later, a knock on Crystal's door. Crystal is alone.
Come in.
I am Mrs. Stephen Haynes.
Sorry, I don't think I know you.
Please don't pretend.
So Stephen finally told you.
No, I found out.
Stay out of here.
I've known about you from the beginning.
Well, that's news.
I've still up to now.
Very smart of you.
But you've gone a little too far. You've been seeing my children. I won't have you touching my children.
For God's sake, don't get hysterical. What do I care about your children? I'm sick of hearing about them.
You won't have to hear about them anymore. When Stephen realizes how humiliating all of this has been to me, he'll give you up instantly.
Says who? The dog in the manger?
That's all I have to say.
That's plenty. Maybe you'll find you've said too much. Stephen's not tired of me yet, Mrs. Haynes.
Stephen is just amusing himself with you.
And he's amusing himself plenty.
You're very hard.
I can be soft on the right occasions. What do you expect me to do? Burst into tears and beg you to forgive me?
I found exactly what I expected.
That goes double.
You'll have to make other plans, Miss Allen.
Listen, I'm taking my marching orders from Stephen.
Stephen doesn't love you.
He's doing the best he can in the circumstances.
He couldn't love a girl like you.
What do you think we've been doing for the past 6 months? Crossword puzzles? What have you got to kick about? You've got everything that matters. The name, the position, the money.
Nothing matters to me but Stephen.
Oh, can the sob stuff, Mrs. Haynes. You don't think this is the first time Stephen's ever cheated. Listen, I'd break up your smug little roost if I could. I'd have just as much right as you to sit in that tub of butter, but I don't stand a chance.
I'm glad you know it.
Well, you don't think it's just because he's fond of you.
Fond?
You're not what's stopping him. You're just an old habit with him. It's just those brats he's afraid of losing. If you weren't such a sentimental fool about those kids, he'd have walked out on you months ago.
That's not true.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm telling you a few plain truths you won't get from Stephen.
Stephen's always told me the truth.
Well, look at the record. Listen, Stephen's satisfied with this arrangement, so don't force any issues unless you want plenty of trouble.
You've made it impossible for me to do anything else.
Have I?
You haven't played fair.
Where would any of us get if we played fair?
Where do you hope to get?
Right where you are, Mrs. Haynes.
You're very confident.
The longer you stay in here, the more confident I get. Saint or no saint, Mrs. Haynes, you're a hell of a stupid woman.
I probably am. Oh, why am I standing here talking to you? This is something for Stephen and me to settle.
Oh, what the hell?
So that's what she calls meeting Mrs. Haynes socially.
Gee, I feel sorry for Mrs. Haynes. She's so nice.
She should have kept her mouth shut. Now she's in the soup.
It's a terrible mistake to force a decision on a man who's hot for another woman.
Alan's smart. She knows that.
She'll get him, sure. Look at that body. She's got him now.
You can't trust any man. That's all they want.
What else have we got to give?
Curtain falls. Act 1, Scene 5. 2 weeks later, in a small exercise room in Elizabeth Arden's beauty salon, there is a mirrored wall, a door, a cabinet Victrola beneath the open window. On the floor is a wadded pink satin mat. As the curtain rises, Sylvia, in a pair of shorts, is prone on the mat, describing lackadaisical arcs with her legs, to the sensuous rhythm of a tango record. The instructress, a bright, pretty girl in a pink silk bathing suit, stands above her, drilling her in a carefully cultured voice. Until the cues stretch, the instructress's lines are spoken through Sylvia's prattle, which she is determined, for the honor of the salon, to ignore, and if possible, to discourage. From the word up, this is a hopeless task.
Up, over, up, down. Up, stretch, up, together. Up, stretch, up.
But of course my sympathies are for Mrs. Haynes. They're always for a woman against a man.
Up, over, up, down. Up, stretch, up,
but
together.
She did behave like an awful idiot.
Stretch, up, together. Please try not to talk, Mrs. Fowler.
But you know how some women are when they lose their heads.
Stretch, up, together, up.
They do things they regret all their lives.
Stretch.
Oh, my scars.
Very good for adhesions. Up.
Oh, it's got me down.
Rest. And relax your diaphragm muscle, Mrs. Fowler, if you can.
Of course, I do wish Mrs. Haynes would make up her mind if she's going to get a divorce. It's terrible on all her friends not knowing. Naturally, you can't ask them anywhere.
Of course not. Now, on your side. Ready? Up, down, up, down.
Okay.
Don't bend the
Now,
knee.
for the children's sake, I think Mrs. Haynes ought to stay. I know I would.
Don't crook it, please.
And she ought not to have faced Mrs. Haynes with the issue. When a man got himself that deep, he hasn't got the time to taper it off.
Not in, not out.
Okay, but Mrs. Haynes never listens to any of her friends. She is a very peculiar person.
She must be. Now, please, up, down, up, down.
Okay, well, I'll tell everybody whatever she wants to do is the right thing. I've got to be loyal to Mrs. Haynes. You know, I'm simply exhausted.
And suppose you try something simple, like crawling up the wall.
What I go through to keep my figure, Lord, it infuriates me at dinner parties when some fat, lazy man asks, well, what do you do with yourself all day, Mrs. Fowler?
You rotate on your buttocks. Arms flat. Now you crawl slowly up the wall.
I wish you wouldn't say that. It makes me feel like vermin.
Don't talk.
There's a couple of people I'd like to exterminate, too.
Let's reverse the action. How do you do, Mrs. Day? Down slowly.
How do you do? Hello, Sylvia.
You're late again, Peggy.
I'm sorry.
After all, dear, I'm paying for this course.
You know I'm grateful, Sylvia.
Well, don't cry about it. It's only $50.
That's a lot to me.
To you, or just to your husband, dear?
Please, ladies, let us begin with posture. A lady always enters a room erect.
Lots of my friends exit horizontally.
Now, knees apart, sit on the wall, relax. Now roll slowly up the wall, pressing each little vertebra against the wall as hard as you can. Shoulders back and where they belong, heads back. Mrs. Fowler, lift yourself behind the ears. Yep. Pretend you're just a silly little puppet dangling on a string. Chin up. No, Mrs. Day, your chin is resting comfortably on a little table. Elbows bent, up on your toes, arms out, up, shove with the small of your back. You're off.
Oh, Sylvia, why do you always insinuate that John is practically a miser?
Tuck under.
Okay, you have your own little income, Peggy. And what do you do with it? You give it to John.
Now, back, please.
John makes so little.
Steady, it's under control.
Peggy, you're robbing John of his manly sense of responsibility. You're turning him into a gigolo. A little money of her own she lets no man touch that's the only protection a woman has.
Now, are you both the way you were when you left the wall?
Well, I am.
No, Mrs. Fowler, you're not. Not this, Mrs. Fowler. That. Try it, please. Now, relax on the mat.
This piece of business defies description, but to do the best one can. The girls stand side by side, arms above their heads. At the instructress's count, one by one, each drops a hand, limp from the wrist, and two, the other hand drops, then the other head, and then they fall down boneless things to the mat. The instructress has changed the record.
Oh. Now, ready? Bend, stretch, begin. Bend, stretch, bend, down. Plenty of pull on the hamstrings, please. Bend, stretch, bend, down.
Oh, Sylvia. Hello, Peggy.
Why, Edith, what are you doing up here?
Having a facial downstairs. Oh, Sylvia, I'm so glad you're here. I've done the most awful thing. I have to do.
We're right in the middle of our exercise, Mrs. Potter.
Will you tell them outside? I want my praline bath, my paraffin bath now. That's a dear.
But Mrs. Fowler.
I am simply exhausted.
You've hardly moved a muscle.
Look, whose carcass is this? Yours or mine?
It's yours, Mrs. Fowler, but I'm paid to exercise it.
You talk like a horse trainer.
Well, Mrs. Fowler, you're getting warm.
I've done the most ghastly thing. Move over. But it wasn't until I got here, in the middle of my facial, that I realized it. I could bite
What is
my
it,
tongue
Edith?
off.
Okay, what it...
You're biting my tongue, I'm supposed to bite it. I could bite my tongue off when I think of it.
What is it, Edith?
I was lunching with Frances Jones, and
Edith Potter, I know exactly what you're going to say.
I forgot
You forgot she's Dali de Pistil.
But I'd never read her awful column.
You told her something about me. What did you tell her?
Oh, darling, you know I never would give you away. I told her all about Stephen and Mary.
Okay, that, yeah.
It wasn't until the middle of my facial.
Oh, Edith, it'll be in all those dreadful tabloids.
I know. I've been racking my brains to recall what I said. I think I told her that when Mary walked into the fitting room, when Mary walked into the fitting room, where have I gone? Oh dear, I've lost my place. Jesus Christ.
Yankee.
What page do we?
40.
40.
On, babe?
The very
40?
bottom.
Good
She was
Lord.
yanking an ermine coat off the Allen girl.
Yeah, Mary walked into the fitting room. She yanked the ermine coat off the Allen girl.
You didn't.
Well, I don't know whether I said ermine or sable, but I know I told her that Mary smacked the Allen girl.
Edith.
Well, that's what Sylvia told me.
I did not.
You did too.
Anyway, I didn't expect you to tell it to a cheap reporter.
Well, it doesn't really make that much difference. The divorce is practically settled.
Who said so?
You did.
I said Mary couldn't broadcast her domestic difficulties and not expect them to wind up in a scandal.
Mary didn't broadcast them.
Well, who did?
You did. You're all making it impossible for her to do anything now but get a divorce.
You flatter us. We didn't realize how much influence we had on our friends' lives.
Everybody's calling her up, telling her how badly she's been treated.
As a matter of fact, I told her she'd make a great mistake. What has any woman got to gain by a divorce? No matter how much he gives her, she won't have what they had together. And you know as well as I do, he'd marry that girl. What he spent on her, he'd have to protect his investment. But I have as much investment on Mary as I have on you, Peggy.
Paraffin bath is ready, Mrs. Fowler.
Well, don't worry, Edith. I'll give De Piste a ring. I can fix it.
How?
Oh, I'll just tell her you were lying.
You'll do no such thing.
Then let the story ride. It will be forgotten tomorrow. You know, the awful things they printed about, what's her name before she jumped out of the window? I can't even remember her name. Who cares? Edith?
Mrs. Potter, you come back where you belong.
Why, you'd think this was a boarding school.
But Mrs. Potter, it's such a foolish waste of money.
Listen, relaxing is part of my facial.
Then you should relax completely. Mrs. Potter, from the chin up.
Honestly, the class feeling you run into these days. Oh, I'm so tired of paying creatures like that to insult me.
Edith, let's call Mary up and warn her.
About what?
The newspapers.
My dear, how could we do that without involving Sylvia?
But it's her fault. Oh, she's such a dreadful woman.
Oh, she can't help it, Peggy. It's just her tough luck she wasn't born deaf and dumb. But what can we do about it? She's always gotten away with murder. Why, she's been having an affair for a year with that young customer's man in Howard's office.
Edith!
Right under Howard's nose. But Howard doesn't care. So what business is it of yours or mine? Peggy, take a tip from me. Keep out of other women's troubles. I've never had a fight with a girlfriend in all my life. Why? I hear no evil, I see no evil, I speak no evil.
The curtain falls. Scene 6, a few days later. Mary's pantry at midnight. There is a swinging door to the kitchen in the rear. a sink under a curtained window, and a small built-in refrigerator, a table and 2 chairs. As the curtain rises, Jane, the maid, and Maggie, the new cook, are having a midnight snack. Maggie, a buxom, middle-aged woman, wears a wrapper and felt bedroom slippers.
So he says, all you can do with a story like that is live it down, Mary.
I told you they'd begin all over. Once a thing like that is out between a married couple, they gotta fight it out. Depends on which they get sick of first, each other or the argument.
It's enough to make you lose your faith in marriage.
Whose faith in marriage?
You don't believe in marriage?
Sure I do, for women. But it's the sons of Adam they gotta marry. Go on.
Well, finally, he said to the madam, I gave her up, didn't I? And I was a swine about the way I did it. How do you suppose he did it, Maggie?
Maybe he just said, scram, the wife is on to us.
Well, the madam didn't believe him. She says, Stephen, you really ain't seen her.
He lied in his teeth.
Oh, the way he said it, I kind of believed him, but the madam says, oh, but can I ever trust you again?
You can't trust none of them any further than I could kick this lemon pie.
Oh, it was terrible sad. He said, Mary, dear Mary, Mary, dear Mary, Mary.
Dear Mary, but it ain't exactly convincing.
Then I guess he tried to kiss her because she says, please don't. I'll never be able to kiss you again without thinking of her in your arms.
Just like in the movies. Imagine him taking up with a girl like that.
He was telling the madam she's a virgin.
She is? That's what all the rumpus is about?
Oh, she ain't a virgin now. She was.
So was Mae West once.
He told the madam he'd been faithful for 12 years.
Well, that's something these days. That beats Lindbergh's flight. Did the madam believe him?
She said, how do I know you've been faithful?
She don't.
But the way he said it.
Listen, if they lay off 6 months, they feel themselves busting out all over with halos.
Anyway, he says this girl was really a nice girl, so sweet and interested in him and all. And how it happened one night, unexpected, in her room.
Did he think it was going to happen in Roxy's?
He said she wouldn't take nothing from him for months.
Only her education. Oh, that one knew her onions. She certainly played him for a sucker.
That's what the madam said. She said, Stephen, can't you see that girl's only interested in you for your money?
I bet that made him sore. A man don't like to be told no woman but his wife is fool enough to love him. It drives him nutty.
Did it? Mary, I told you what kind of girl she is, he says. You know, I just told you.
I had her number. You didn't convey no information.
Well, then they both got sore.
I knew it.
So he began to tell her all over what a good husband he'd been and how hard he'd worked for her and the kids, and she kept interrupting with what a good wife she'd been and how proud she was of him. Then they began to exaggerate themselves.
Listen, anybody that's ever been married knows that line backwards and forwards. What happened?
Well, somewhere in there, the madam says, Stephen, you do want a divorce, only you ain't got the courage to ask it. And he says, oh, my God, no, I don't, Mary. Haven't I told you? And she says, but you don't love me. And he says, but oh, my God, Mary, I'm awful fond of you. And she says, very icy, fond, is that all? And he says, no, Mary, there's the children. Maggie, that's the thing I don't understand. Why does she get so mad every time he says they've got to consider the children? If children ain't the point of being married, what is?
A woman doesn't want to be told she's being kept on just to run a kindergarten.
Well, the madam says, Stephen, I want to keep the children out of this. I haven't used the children. I ain't asked you to sacrifice yourself for the children. Maggie, that's where he got so terrible mad. He says, but why in God's name, Mary? You knew about us all along. Why did you wait until now to make a fool of me?
As if he needed her help.
So then suddenly she says in an awful low voice, Stephen, oh, Stephen, we can't go on like this. It ain't worthy of what we've been to each other. And he says, oh, no, it's not, Mary.
Quite an actress, ain't you?
My boyfriend says I got eyes like Joan Crawford.
Did he ever say anything about your legs? Have a cup of coffee.
That's when the madam says, "What, you could have knocked me down with a feather." The madam says, "Stephen, I want a divorce. Yes, Stephen, I want a divorce."
Abdicating.
Well, Maggie, you could have knocked him down with a feather.
I'd like to knock him down with this.
"My God, Mary," he says, "you don't mean it." So she says in a funny voice, "Yes, I do. You've killed my love for you, Stephen."
He's just simple-minded enough to think that.
So he says, "I don't blame you. My God, how can I blame you?"
My God, he can't.
So then she said it was all over because it was only the children he minded losing. She said that made their marriage a mockery.
A mockery?
Something funny.
I ain't gonna die laughing.
He said she was talking nonsense. He said she was just upset on account of this story in the papers. He said, what else could she expect if she was going to spill her troubles to a lot of gabby women? He said she should go to bed until she could think things over. He was going out for a breath of fresh air.
Ah, the old hat trick.
So the madam says, "You're going to see that girl." And he says, "Oh, for God's sake, Mary, 1 minute you never want to see me again. The next I can't even go out for an airing."
Y'all let none of them out except on the leash.
And she says, "Are you going to see her or ain't you?" And he says, "Well, what difference does it make if you're going to divorce me?" And she says, "It don't make no difference to you, I guess. Please go, Stephen, and don't come back ever."
Yes?
I didn't hear his last words because naturally, when he said he was going, I scooted down the hall. But I heard her call, "Stephen?" And he stops on the landing and says, "Yes, Mary?" And she says, "Nothing. Just don't slam the front door. The servants will hear you." So I came down here. Oh, Maggie, what's going to happen?
She's going to get a divorce.
Oh, dear. I'm so sad for her.
I ain't.
What?
She's indulging a pride she ain't entitled to. Marriage is the business of taking care of a man and rearing his children. It ain't meant to be no perpetual honeymoon. How long would any husband last if he was supposed to go on acting forever like a red-hot Clark Gable? What's the difference if he don't love her?
How can you say that, Maggie?
That don't let her off her obligation to keep him from making a fool of himself, does it?
Do you think he'll marry that girl?
When a man's got the habit of supporting some woman, he just don't feel natural unless he's doing it.
But he told the madam marrying her, she was the furthest thing from his mind.
It don't matter what he's got in his mind. It's what those two women got in theirs that will settle the matter.
But the madam says it's up to him. She said, "You love her or you love me, Stephen."
So what did he say to that?
Nothing for a long time. Just walked up and down, up and down, up and down.
He was thinking, the first man who can think of a good explanation how he can be in love with his wife and another woman is going to win that prize they're always giving out in Sweden.
Curtain falls. Scene 7. 1 month later, in Mary's living room. The room is now denuded of pictures, books, vases, etc. The rug is rolled up, curtains and chairs are covered with slips. As the curtain rises, Mary, dressed for travel, is pacing up and down. Mrs. Moorhead, dressed for the street, watches her from the sofa.
What time does your train go?
An hour. His secretary ought to be here. I never knew there could be so many papers to sign.
You showed everything to your lawyers.
They always say the same thing. I'm getting a raw deal.
But Mary...
Oh, I know it's not true. Stephen's been very generous.
Huh, I wouldn't say that. If Stephen is a rich man now, he owes it largely to you.
Stephen would have gotten where he is with or without me.
Didn't have a penny when you married him.
Mother, are you trying to make me bitter too?
I'm sure I don't know what to say. If I sympathize with Stephen, you accuse me of taking his side. And when I sympathize with you, I'm making you bitter. The thing for me to do is keep still. You're both making a terrible mistake.
Mother, please.
But the children, Mary, the children.
What good will it do them to be brought up in a home full of quarreling and suspicion? They'll be better off just with me.
No, they won't. A children needs both its parents in one home.
A home without love?
He's terribly fond of you.
Mother, don't use that word. Oh, Mother, please. Every argument goes round in circles, and it's too late now.
It's never too late when you love. Mary, why don't you call this thing off? I'm sure that's what Stephen's waiting for you to do.
Is it? He hasn't made any sign of it to me. Isn't he the one to come to me?
You're the one, Mary, who insisted on the divorce.
But don't you see, if he hadn't wanted it, he'd have fought me.
Stephen's not the fighting kind.
Neither am I.
Damn these modern laws.
Mother.
Damn them, I say. 50 years ago, when women couldn't get divorces, they made the best of situations like this. And sometimes, out of situations like this, they made very good things indeed.
Mr. Haynes' secretary, ma'am.
Tell her to come in. Now go bathe your eyes. Don't let that adding machine see you like this. And don't be long. Remember, you have one more unpleasant task.
Mary?
The child must be told.
I have been putting it off because
you hope at the last minute a miracle will keep you from making a mess of your life. Have you thought Stephen might marry that girl?
He won't do that.
What makes you so sure?
Because deep down, Stephen does love me. But he won't find it out until I've really gone away. You'll take good care of the children, Mother, and make them write to me in Reno once a week. And please, Mother, don't spoil them so.
Gracious, you'd think I'd never raised children of my own.
Enter Miss Watts and Miss Trimmerback. They are very tailored, plain girls. Miss Watts, the older and plainer, carries a briefcase.
How do you do, Miss Watts?
How do you do, Mrs. Moorhead? This is Miss Trimmerback from the office.
How do you do?
She's notary. We have some papers for Mrs. Haynes to sign.
Anything I can do?
The children will be with you. And any incidental bills, Mrs. Moorhead sent to the office. But you understand, bills arriving after the divorce will be assumed by Mrs. Haynes under the terms of the settlement.
Mrs. Haynes will be with you in a minute. Please don't bother her with unnecessary details. She's pressed for time.
Gee, don't you feel sorry for Mrs. Haynes?
I don't feel sorry for any woman who thinks the world owes her breakfast in bed.
You don't like her.
Oh, she never interfered at the office.
Well, maybe that's why he's been a success.
He'd have gotten further without her. Everything big that came up, he was too cautious because of her and the kids. Well, thank heavens it's almost over. He and I can go back to work.
Well, what about Alan?
What about her?
Is he going to marry her?
I don't butt into private affairs. Oh, hold no brief for Alan, but I must say, knowing her gave him a new interest in his work. Before her, he was certainly going stale. They had me worried.
Well, she's lucky, I say.
Oh?
Well, I wish I could get a man to foot my bills. I'm sick and tired of cooking my own breakfast, sloshing through rain at 8 a.m., working like a dog. For what? Independence? A lot of independence you have on a woman's wages. I'd chuck it for a decent or an indecent home.
I'm sure you would.
Wouldn't you?
I have a home.
You mean Plattsburgh, where you were born?
The office, that's my home.
Some home, I see. The office wife?
He could get along better without Mrs. Haynes or Alan than he could without me.
Oh, you're very efficient, dear. But what makes you think you're indispensable?
I relieve him of 1,000 foolish details. I remind him of things he forgets, including very often these days, his good opinion of himself. I never cry, and I don't nag. I guess I am the office wife, and a lot better off than Mrs. Haynes. He'll never divorce me.
What? You're in love with him?
What if I am? I'd rather work for him than marry the kind of dumb cluck I could get. It's because he's a man.
Yes, Miss Watts?
Here are the inventories of the furniture, Mrs. Haynes. I had the golf cups, the books, etchings, and the ash stand sent to Mr. Haynes' club. Mr. Haynes asked if he could also have a portrait of the two children.
Oh, but
he said it wouldn't matter if you really didn't care for him to have it.
It's in storage.
This will get it out. Sign there. The cook's letter of reference. Sign here. The insurance papers. You sign here. The transfer papers on the car. What do you want done with it?
Well,
I'll find a garage. Sign here. What do you want done if someone meets your price on this apartment?
Well, I thought
this gives us power of attorney until you get back. Sign here.
But I.
Oh, it's quite an order, Mrs. Haynes. Now, Mr. Haynes took the liberty of drawing you a new will.
But really,
if anything were to happen to you in Reno, half your property would revert to him. A detail your lawyers overlooked. Mr. Haynes drew up codicil cutting himself out.
But I don't understand legal language, Miss Watts. I must have my lawyer.
As you please. Mr. Haynes suggested this for your sake, not his. I'm sure you realize he has nothing but your interests at heart. Sign here. We need 3 witnesses. Oh, your maid will do.
Jane, please witness this. It's my will.
Oh, Mrs. Haynes.
You can always make changes in the event of your remarriage, and don't hesitate to let me know at the office if there's anything I can ever do for you.
I will do nothing, Mrs. Watts.
Oh, there are always tag ends to a divorce, Mrs. Haynes, and you know how Mr. Haynes hates to be bothered with inconsequential details. Good day, Mrs. Haynes, and pleasant journey to you.
Mr. Haynes said I was to give you these to wear on the train.
What can I say, Stephen?
All set, dear.
All set. Mary, Mother wants to talk to you before she goes away.
Brother and I will wait for you downstairs.
Mary, sit down, dear. Mary.
Yes, Mother?
Mary.
Have I done something wrong, Mother?
Oh, no, darling, no. Mary, you know Daddy's been gone for some time.
A whole month.
Shall I tell you why?
Why?
You know, darling, when a man and a woman fall in love, what they do, don't you?
They kiss a lot.
They get married.
Oh, yes, and then they have those children.
Well, sometimes married people don't stay in love.
What, Mother?
Well, they do, that's all. And when they do, they get unmarried. You see?
No.
Well, they do. They get what's called a divorce.
Oh, do they?
You don't know what a divorce is, but...
Yes, I do. I go to the movies, don't I? And lots of my friends have mummies and daddies who are divorced.
Oh, you know I love you very much, don't you, Mary?
Of course, Mother.
Your father and I are going to get a divorce. That's why I'm going away. That's why... Oh, darling, I can't explain to you quite, but I promise you, when you are older, you'll understand and you'll forgive me. You really will. Look at me, baby, please.
I'm looking at you, Mother. Doesn't Daddy love you anymore?
No, he doesn't.
Don't you love him?
No, Mary.
Oh, Mother, why?
I don't know, but it isn't either Daddy's or Mother's fault.
But, Mother, when you love somebody, I thought you loved them until the day you die.
With children, yes, but grown-ups are different. They can fall out of love.
I won't fall out of love with you and Daddy when I grow up. Will you fall out of love with me?
Oh, no, darling, that's different too.
I don't see how.
You'll have to take my word for it, baby. It is. This divorce has nothing to do with our love for you.
Yeah. I lost my place, Mother. Where are we in the script? Damn it. Say your line again, Mummy. My lips are
Darling.
trembling. Huh?
Darling, I'll explain it to you better in the taxi. We'll go alone in the taxi, shall we?
Oh, but Mother, if you and Daddy are getting a divorce, which one won't I see again? Daddy or you?
You and brother will live with me. That's what happens when people get divorced. Children go with their mothers. But you'll see Daddy sometimes. Darling, come along.
Please, Mother, wait for me downstairs.
Why?
I have to go to the bathroom.
Then hurry along, dear.
Oh, please, please, Mother dear. Oh, Daddy, Daddy, darling. Oh, why don't you do something? Do something, Mother dear.
Now the nomination goes to Brian Cooper. As the curtain falls.
That was awesome.
Ridiculousness.
2, scene 1 month later.
Tissue. Yeah.
A room in a hospital. There's a corridor, a window banked sill with expensive flowers, a hospital bed in which Edith, propped up in a sea of lace pillows, lies with a small bundle at her breast. A white uniformed nurse sits by the window. The droop of her shoulders is eloquent. Edith is a trying patient. As the curtain rises, Edith reaches across the bundle to the bedside table for a cigarette. She can't make it.
Nurse,
Yes, Mrs. Potter.
throw me a cigarette.
Can't you wait, at least as you are through nursing?
Oh, how many children have you nursed? I've nursed 4. Oh. Ouch! Damn it! It's got jaws like a dinosaur.
Hello, Edith.
Hello, Peggy.
Here.
Oh, how thoughtful. Nurse, will you ask this damned hospital if they're equipped with a decent vase?
Oh, let me see. Oh, Edith, isn't he divine?
Yes, he looks just like... Yes, I hate that milky smell.
What's that on his nose?
What nose? Oh, that's ash. Oh.
It's from Mary?
All about how healthy Reno is. Not a word about how she feels. I thought she cared more about Stephen than that. She sends her love to you and John. Nurse, close that door. Oh, I can't tell you what that newborn yodel does to my nerves. What are you so down into the mouth about? I feel as badly about it as you do, but it was the thing Mary wanted to do, or she wouldn't have done it. Judging by that, she's reconciled to the whole idea.
She's just being brave.
Brave? Why would she bother to be brave with her friends? Here, nurse, here, he's through. I told Phelps to be sure to tell Stephen that Mary's perfectly happy. It will cheer Stephen up. He's been going around like a whipped dog.
Oh, Edith, please let me hold him.
Careful of his back, Mrs. Day.
Oh, I like the feeling so.
You wouldn't like it so much if you just had it. I had a terrible time, didn't I, nurse?
Oh, no, Mrs. Potter. You had a very easy time. Why, women like you don't know what a terrible time is. Try beating a baby and scrubbing floors, bearing a baby and scrubbing floors. Try having one in a cold, filthy kitchen without ether, without a change of linen, without decent food, without a cent to bring it up. And try getting up the next day with your insides falling out to cook your husband's... No, Mrs. Potter, you didn't have a terrible time at all. I'll take the baby, please. I hope someday you'll have one of your own, Mrs. Day.
Well, for God's sake, Peggy, that old battle axe didn't hurt my feelings a bit. They're all the same. If you don't get peritonitis or have quintuplets, they think you've had a picnic. What's the matter?
Oh, Edith, John and I are getting a divorce.
Oh, well, darling, that's what I heard.
But we didn't decide until last night.
Oh, darling, everybody could see it was in the cards. Money, I suppose?
Oh dear, I wish Mary were here.
Well, she'll be there. Oh, forgive me, dear. I do feel sorry for you, but it is funny.
What's funny?
It's going to be quite a gathering of the clan. Howard Fowler's bounced Sylvia out right on her ear. He's threatened to divorce her right here in New York if she doesn't go to Reno and name her young customer's man.
But Howard's always known?
Certainly. Howard hired him, so he'd have plenty of time for his own affairs. Howard's got some girl he wants to marry. But nobody, not even Winchell, knows who she is. Howard's a cooney cuss. I do think it's screaming. When you remember how Sylvia always thought she was putting something over on us girls. Oh.
Life's awfully unattractive, isn't it?
Oh, I wouldn't complain if that damn stork would take the Indian sign off me.
Curtain falls. Act 2, Scene 2. A few weeks later, Mary's living room in a Reno hotel. In the rear wall is a bay window showing a view of Reno's rooftops and distant Nevada ranges. There's a door to the kitchenette, a door to the corridor, a plush armchair, and a sofa. In the corner, Mary's half-packed trunks and bags. It is all very drab and ugly. As the curtain rises, Lucy, a slatternly middle-aged, busky woman in a house dress, is packing clothes that are strewn on an armchair and table. She is singing in a nasal falsetto.
Down on Smoky, all covered with snow, I lost my true lover from courting too low. Courting is pleasure, parting is grief. On a false-hearted lover is worse than a thief.
Lucy, where's Miss Haynes?
Down waiting for the mail. You'll miss her a lot when she goes tomorrow. Miss Haynes about the nicest ever came here.
I hate Reno.
You didn't come for fun. The grave will decay you and change you to dust. Ain't one boy out of 20 a poor cow can trust.
You've seen lots of divorces, haven't you, Lucy?
I've been cooking here for 10 years.
You feel sorry for us?
Well, ma'am, I don't. You feel plenty sorry for yourself. Lord, you ain't got much else to do.
You've never been married, Lucy.
I've had 3.
Husbands?
Kids.
Oh, then you're probably very happy.
Lord, ma'am, I stopped thinking about being happy years ago.
You don't think about being happy?
I ain't had the time with the kids and all, and the old man, such a demon when he's drinking. Them big, strong, red-headed men, they're fierce.
Oh, Lucy, he beat you. How terrible.
Ain't it? When you think what a lot of women in this hotel needs a beating worse than me.
But you live in Reno. You could get a divorce overnight.
Oh, Lord, a woman can't get herself worked up to a thing like that overnight. I had a mind to do it once. I had the money too, but I had to call it off.
Why?
I found out I was in a family way.
Lucy, tell Mrs. Haynes I must talk to her alone before supper.
Ah, Peggy, how are you, dear child?
All right, Countess Love.
I've been galloping madly across the desert all day. Lucy, here's a wee juggy. We must celebrate Mrs. Haynes's divorce.
Well, Countess Love, I don't think a divorce is anything to celebrate.
Wait till you've lost as many husbands as I have, Peggy. Married, divorced, married, divorced. But where love leads, I always follow. So here I am in Reno.
Oh, I wish I were anywhere on earth, anywhere else.
My dear, you've got the Reno jumpy wumpies. Did you go to the doctor? What did he say?
He said it was the altitude.
Well, you'll get used to that. My third husband, Gustav, was a ski instructor. If one lives in Switzerland, Peggy, one simply has got to accept the Alps. As I used to say to myself, Flora, there those damn Alps are, and there's very little even you can do about it.
Yes, Countess Love.
Oh, I wish she hadn't brought up the Alps, Lucy. It always reminds me of that nasty moment I had the day Gustav made me climb to the top of one of them. Lucy, pull off my boots. Anyhow, there we were, and suddenly it struck me that Gustav had pushed me. I slid halfway down the mountain before I realized that Gustav didn't love me anymore. But love takes care of its own, Lucy. I slid right into the arms of my fourth husband, the Count.
Ain't that the one you're divorcing now?
But of course, Lucy. What could I do when I found out that he was putting arsenic into my bromo seltzer? Ah, l'amour, l'amour. Lucy, were you ever in love?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell me about it, Lucy.
Well, ma'am, there ain't much to tell. I was kind of enjoying the courting time. It was as purty a sight as you ever saw. To see him here come loping across them hills, the sky's so big and blue, and that hair of his blazing like the bejesus in the sun. Then we sit on my back fence and spark. But ma'am, no, how them big, strong, red-headed men are. They just got to get to the point. So we got married, ma'am, and naturally, I ain't got no chance to think about love since.
The trouble with me, Lucy, is I've been marrying too many foreigners. I think I'll go back to marrying Americans.
Hiya, Lucy.
Evening, Mrs. Aarons.
Hey, Countess. How's rhythm on the range?
Gallop, gallop, gallop madly over the sagebrush. But now, Miriam, I'm having an emotional relapse. In 2 weeks, I'll be free as a bird from that little French bastard. But whither, oh, whither shall I fly?
To the arms of that cowboy up on the Dude Ranch?
Miriam Aarons.
Why, he's nuts for you, Countess. He likes you better than that horse. And it's such a big damn horse.
Well, Buck Winston is nice. So young, so strong. Have you noticed the play of his muscles? Musical.
You could crack a coconut with those knees. If you could get them together. Say, Countess, that guy hasn't been arousing your honorable intentions in you, has he?
Yes, Miriam, but I'm different from the rest of you. I've always put my faith in love. Still, I've had 3 divorces. Dare I risk a 4th?
What are you risking, Countess? Or maybe I shouldn't ask.
I mean, Miriam, I could never make a success of Buck Winston at Newport.
Even Mrs. Astor would have to admit that Buck's handsome. If I had your Joe, I'd take Hollywood and Newport.
Hollywood? Why not? I might even turn him into a picture star. After all, my second husband was a gondolier, and a month after I married him, a duchess eloped with him. Ah, l'amour.
Hi, Sylvia. Going to a ball?
Doing the town with a boyfriend.
Where'd you pick him up?
Silver State Bar. I'm not going to sit around moping like Mary.
Poor Mary. If her husband gave her the flimsiest excuse, she'd take him back.
She has no pride. I'd roast in hell before I take Howard Fowler back, kicking me out like that. After all I sacrificed.
Such as what?
I gave him my youth.
Well, what else can a woman do with her youth but give it to a man?
She can't preserve it in alcohol.
But Sylvia, how could your husband kick you out if you were femme fidèle?
Oh, of course I was a faithful wife. What are you laughing at?
2 kinds of women, Sylvia. Owls and ostriches. To the feathered sisterhood. To the girls who get paid, lit and paid. And you got paid plenty.
You bet I got paid plenty, the skunk. And I'd have got paid plenty more if I could only have just pinned something on him.
Oh, didn't you try?
Certainly not. To put it mildly, Howard has been impotent for years.
I never got a sou from any of my husbands except my first husband, Mr. Strauss. He said the most touching thing in his will. I remember every word of it. To my beloved wife, Flora, I leave all my estate in trust to be administered by executors because she is an A #1 schlemiel. Oh, wasn't that sweet?
Hey, you queen.
Fine.
You lie.
Mary, I'm starved.
Supper's nearly ready. As my last official act in Reno, I cooked the whole thing with my hands, didn't I, Lucy?
Oh, but the steak and tomatoes and dessert, Mrs. Haynes.
For you, Sylvia, from Edith?
You couldn't miss that infantile scrawl. You didn't hear from anyone.
No.
Well, darling, Stephen's hardly worth a broken heart.
The less you have to say about me and Stephen, the better I like it.
I'm only trying to cheer you up. That's more than you do for me.
I'm doing enough, just being pleasant to you.
My, you have the jitters, dear.
Hey, Sylvia, we're all out here in the same boat. Mary's laid off you. Why don't you lay off her?
I'm just trying to make her see life isn't over just because Stephen let her down. Well.
You see, Miriam, what else is there for a woman but l'amour?
There's a little corn whiskey left.
Cynic, you don't believe in Cupid.
That's double tossing, crossing little squirt. Give me Donald Duck. Have a drink? Listen, babe, why not relax? You feel better.
Miriam, you're not very chatty about your own affairs.
Miriam, you sly puss, you never even breathed that you knew Sylvia's husband.
What?
Sylvia, listen to this from Winchell. Miriam Vanity's Errands is being renovated. 3 guesses, Mrs. Fowler, for who Ostermeyer?
Why can't those lousy columnists leave a successful divorce alone?
Prominent stockbroker and ex-Corrine to marry.
Why, you dirty little hypocrite!
Now,
Sylvia.
Did you know this?
No, but Sylvia, why do you care? You don't love Howard.
Love has nothing to do with this. She just wants Howard for his money.
and what did you want him for? I made Howard pay for what he wants. You made him pay for what he doesn't want.
Why, Sylvia, I thought you said Howard was impotent. What a lovely surprise. Besides, I'll stay bought. That's more than you did, Sylvia.
If Howard's impotent, so is Ali Khan.
Why, you dirty little trollop!
Don't start calling names, you Park Avenue pushover.
Girls, calmez-vous.
Out of the way, you fat old... Let go.
I won't have this, you hear?
Ouch, you bitch, you!
That's
enough.
She's drawn blood.
There's iodine in the bathroom.
Iodine? I need a rabies shot.
I think I lost my place.
64.
Oh, there we go. Hello. Oh, Mary, how could you let her do that to me?
I'm terribly sorry, Sylvia.
The humiliation. You're on her side. After all I've done for you.
What have you done for me?
I warned you.
I'm not exactly grateful for that.
Oh, aren't you? Well, listen to me, you ball of conceit. You're not the only object of pity, you suppose. Plenty of the girls are tickled to death when you got what's coming to you. You deserve to lose Stephen, the stupid way you acted. But I always stood up for you, like a loyal friend. What thanks do I get? You knew about that woman, and you stood by gloating while she...
Get out of here.
I hate you! I hate you! I hate everyone!
Listen, Mrs. Fowler, you got the hysterics.
You wait. Someday you'll need a woman friend, and then you'll think of me.
Poor creatures. They've lost their equilibrium because they've lost their faith in love. L'amour. Remember the song Buck made up just for me? Oh, a man can ride a horse to the range above, but a woman's got to ride on the wings of love. Come I-T-I, yippee-I, yippee-I-yay.
The coast clear?
Oh, that was the most disgusting thing I ever saw.
Right, kid. We're a pair of alley cats.
You should not be here, Peggy, to see it all.
What the hell are you doing here?
John wanted to buy a car.
With my money, John couldn't afford a car.
But you could. What was his is yours. What is yours is your own. Very fair.
A woman's best protection is to keep a little money of her own.
A woman's best protection is the right man. Obviously, John isn't the right man, and Peggy will forget all about him in another month.
No, I won't. I can't. Because, oh, Mary, I'm going to have a baby. Oh, Mary, what shall I do?
Peggy, what's his telephone number?
Eldorado 52075. But oh, Mary, I can't tell him.
Why? Isn't it his?
Oh, of course.
And make it snappy, operator.
I always wanted it, but what can I do with it now?
Land it with the Marines.
Peggy, you've shared your love with him. Your baby will share your blood, your eyes, your hair, your virtues, and your faults. But your little pin money, that of course you could not share.
Oh, Mary, I know I'm wrong, but it's no use. You don't know the things he said to me. I have my pride.
Reno's full of women who all have their pride.
You think I'm like them?
You got the makings, dear.
Love has pride in nothing but its own humility.
Mr. Day, please. Reno calling. Mr. Day, my God, he must live by the phone. Just hold the...
Hello, John. No, I'm not sick. That is, I'm sick. That is, I'm sick to my stomach. Oh, John, I'm going to have a baby. Oh, darling, are you? Oh, darling, do you? Oh, darling, so am I. So do I. Of course I forgive you, you precious. Yes, lamb. On the very next trade, John. Oh, Johnny, when I get back, things are going to be so different. John, do you mind if I reverse the charges? I can't stay for supper. I've got to pack.
When you get back, don't see too much of your girlfriends for a while.
Oh, I won't, Mary. It's all their fault we're here.
Not entirely.
Goodbye. Oh, I'm so happy. I could cry.
Getting wise, aren't you?
Know all the answers.
Then why are you here?
I had plenty of advice, Miriam.
Hello, we completed the call. Operator.
A cigarette?
Listen.
There's nothing you can say I haven't heard.
Sure. I come from a world where a woman's got to come out on top, or it's just too damn bad. Maybe I got a new slant.
All right, Miriam, talk to me about my legal rights. Talk to me about security. What does it all come to? Compromise.
What the hell? A woman's compromised the day she's born.
You can't compromise with utter defeat. He doesn't want me.
How do you know?
How do I know? Why else am I here?
Because you got no guts, Mary Haynes. Happened to me. I lost my man too.
You?
Oh, it only happened once. Got wise myself after that. Look, how did I lose him? We didn't have enough dough to get married. I wouldn't sleep with him until we did. I had ideals. God knows where I'd get them. I hold out on him. Can you beat it? I liked him a lot better than I've ever liked anybody since. What'd my Romeo do? Got himself another girl. I made a terrible stink. Why shouldn't I? I should. But what I ought not to have done was say goodbye. I was like you.
I don't understand.
And get a load of this. I should have licked that girl where she licked me, in the hay.
Miriam.
That's where you win the first round. And if I know men, that's still Custard's last stand. Shocked you? You're too modest. You're ashamed. Okay, sister. But my idea of love is that love isn't ashamed of anything.
A good argument, Miriam. So modern, so simple. Sex the cause, sex the cure. It's too simple, Miriam. Your love battles are for lovers or professionals, not for a man and woman who've been married 12 quiet years. I don't mean I love Stephen's arms around me again. I wouldn't recapture, if I could, our young passion. That was the wonderful thing we had. That was part of our youth, like the babies, but not the thing that made him my husband. That made me his wife. Stephen needed me. He needed me for 12 years. Stephen doesn't need me anymore.
I get it. That's why I'm marrying this guy Fowler. He sure needs me. If I didn't marry him, he'll drink himself to death in a month, the poor dope.
Yes, no, operator, we completed. You say New York is calling Mrs. Haynes? She'll take that call. Stephen.
Listen, make him that speech you just made me.
I knew he'd call. I knew the last moment came, he'd realize he needed me.
For God's sakes, Miriam, tell him that you need him.
Hello? Hello, Stephen? Hello, Stephen? Hello? Hello, Stephen? Mary? Yes. I'm very cheerful. It's good to hear your voice, Stephen. Why, yes, the final divorce is granted tomorrow at 12, but Stephen, I can... But Stephen, no. Of course I haven't seen the papers. How could I out here? Yes, I'd rather you told me. Of course I understand the position you're both in. No, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. I hope you'll both be very happy. No, I have no plans at all. Stephen, do you mind if I hang up? Goodbye, Stephen. Goodbye.
He's marrying her?
Tomorrow. Oh, God, why did I let this happen? We were married. We were one person. We had a good life. Oh, God, I've been a fool.
Sure you have. Haven't we all, sister?
The curtain falls. Act 2, Scene 3. Early evening, 2 years later. In Crystal's bathroom, there is a black marbleized tub with a frilled shower curtain. In a niche back of the tub, a gilded French phone. There is a satin-skirted dressing table covered with glittered toilet bottles and cosmetic jars. The towel racks are piled with embroidered bath towels. There is a door in Crystal's bedroom. As the curtain rises, Crystal is lolling in the bath, reading a magazine and smoking, as Helena, a chic French maid, enters.
Madame has been soaking an hour.
So what?
But monsieur.
Monsieur is going out with me and my friends, whether he likes it or not. Has that kid gone home yet?
Mademoiselle Mary has just finished the supper with her daddy. Madame, monsieur is so anxious that you say good night to her.
Listen, that kid doesn't want to bid me Betty bye any more than I do. He's tried for 2 years to cram us down each other's throats. Let her go home to her mommer. Here, scrub. Someday I'm going to slap that kid down. She's too... Ow, you're taking the skin off. Oh, I'm so bored I could... Colleen, never marry a man who's deserted a good woman. He's as cheerful as a man who's murdered his poor old mother. Get out! And Helene, when Mrs. Fowler comes, keep her downstairs if you have to sit on her. Hello, darling. I'm in the tub. I'm shriveled to a peanut waiting for this call. No, I'm not afraid of a shock. You ought to know. Oh, Buck, I'm going to miss you like nobody's business. I can't tell you what it did for me locking the door of our little apartment. I'll say we had fun. Come-a-tie-yi-yippee. What? Oh no, say nothing you like. Say anything you like. This is the one place where I have some privacy. Listen, baby, must you really go to the coast? Oh, the hell with Mr. Goldwyn. Listen, you don't have to tell me you sacrificed to have a movie career. I've seen that cartoon you married. If Flora was ever a countess, I'm the Duchess of Windsor. Well, Buck, maybe she's not such a half-wit, but... Oh, call me back in 2 minutes. I've had a small interruption. Who told you to come in here?
Daddy, good night.
Oh, don't go, darling. Hand me that brush.
Please?
Please.
Good night.
My, you're in a hurry to tell Daddy about it.
About what?
My talk on the telephone.
I don't understand grown-ups on the telephone. They all sound so silly. Good night.
Good night, who? You've been told to call me Auntie Crystal. Why don't you do it?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, good night.
You sit down.
Oh, it's awfully hot in here. I've got my coat on.
You heard me. We're going to have this out. I've done my level best to be friends with you, but you refuse to cooperate.
What?
Cooperate.
Cooperate?
Answer my question. You don't like me. Why?
Well, good night, Crystal.
I said why.
Listen, Crystal, my mother told me I wasn't to be rude to you.
For the last time, young lady, you give me one good reason why you don't like me.
I never said I didn't like you, Crystal.
But you don't like me, do you?
No, but I never said so. I've been polite, Crystal, considering you're something awful.
Wait till your father hears this.
Listen, Daddy doesn't think you're so wonderful anymore.
Did he tell you that?
No. Daddy always pretends you're all right, but he's just ashamed to have Mother know what I mean. Silly wife he's got. And I don't tell Mother what we think because you've made her cry enough, Crystal, so I'm not going to cooperate ever.
Get out.
And another thing, I think this bathroom is perfectly ridiculous. Good night, Crystal.
Yes, darling, that Haynes brat. God, she gets under my skin. No, she didn't hear anything. What good would it do her anyhow? You're off in the morning, and Lord knows we've been discreet. What? You are? Dining with the first Mrs. Haynes? Well, darling, lay off the gin. It makes you talk too much. Well, just be careful, darling.
Enter Sylvia.
Okay. Yoo-hoo! May I come in?
No, this is not the aquarium. It's Grand Central Station.
Who was that?
A wrong number.
You were talking to a man.
Pass me that sponge, please.
Oh, Crystal, you know you can trust me.
And that eye cup.
There must be someone. After all, I've known Stephen for years. He's not really your type. I often wonder how you two got together. I was telling my psychoanalyst about it. You know, I've got to tell him everything.
That must be a great effort.
Well, I don't mind discussing myself, but talking about my friends does make me feel a little disloyal. He says Stephen has a guilt complex.
What?
He says men of Stephen's generation were brought up to believe that infidelity is a sin. That's why he all allowed Mary to divorce him, and that's why he married you, Crystal. He had to marry you just to convince himself he was not a sexual monster.
Yes, well, if Stephen is a sexual monster, psychoanalyst is through.
And he says, you've got a Cinderella complex. He says most American women have. They're all brought up to believe that marriage to a rich man should be their sole aim in life. He says we either please the men nor function as childbearing animals.
Will you function yourself into the bedroom?
I don't think that's the way to talk to me after all I've done for you. When you married Stephen, you didn't know a soul. It wasn't easy to put you over. Everybody was on Mary's side.
They still are. They never miss a chance to remind me what a noble, useful woman Mary has become since she left Stephen.
Oh, my dear, she's miserable. Why, she never sees a soul.
She's having a dinner party tonight.
Edith told me. She's going, and Flora.
Flora?
The Countess de Lodge. Mrs. Buck Winston? My God, I have to laugh when I think of Flora actually turning that cowboy into a movie star. Of course, he's not my type, but he's positively the chambermaid's delight.
Will you shut up?
But Crystal.
I said shut up. Helene.
Well, I think you're very ungrateful.
Well, take it up with your psychoanalyst. Helene, draw the curtains. I want to take a shower. That's right, Sylvia. Wait in the bedroom.
Oh, dear. I've lost another pound. I must remember to tell my analyst. You know, everything means something. But even my analyst says no woman should try to do as much as I do. He says I attach too much value to my feminine friendships. He says I have a Damon and Pythias complex. I guess I have given too much of myself to other women. He says other women are natural enemies. Why, Crystal, look at this bottle. I thought you didn't touch up your hair. My dear, and I wouldn't use this perfume. You smell it on every tart in New York. That reminds me. If you do have an affair, Crystal, for heaven's sake, be discreet. Remember what Howard did to me? The skunk. My, you're putting on weight. Men, they're so mercenary. They think they own your body and your soul, but just because they pay the bills, well, I tried this cream. It brought out pimples. But of course, Crystal, if you were smart, you'd have a baby. That's the only real hold that a woman has.
Monsieur says, will Madame be long?
Can't you see she's rushing? Men are so selfish. When you're only making yourself beautiful for them, well, I wish I could find a man who would understand my need for a companion. Crystal, what are you doing with the key to the Gothic apartment?
What? Oh, that. Throw me a towel, Sylvia.
That's where Howard had me followed. The doorman there is a professional blackmailer. I asked my psychoanalyst about him. He said blackmailers are just really perverts who can't think of a good perversion. So they blackmail people instead.
Really? Well, they can't blackmail me now. The Gothic apartments are where Stephen and I had to go before the divorce. I kept it for sentimental reasons.
Poor Stephen. My dear, I thought tonight how tired he looked and old. Crystal, I've told you everything. Tell me, how long do you think you can be faithful to Stephen?
Well, life plays funny tricks. The urge might hit me tomorrow.
I doubt it, pet. You're a typical blonde.
So what?
Most blondes are frigid.
Really? Well, maybe that's just a dirty piece of brunette propaganda.
The curtain falls. Act 2, Scene 4, 11 o'clock the same night in Mary's bedroom. A charming, simple room with a door to the dressing room, a door to the hall. As the curtain rises, Jane is arranging a number of evening wraps on the bed. Miriam, Mary, and Nancy are entering.
Thanks, baby, a lot. I was never at a wetter dinner. Right, Mary?
Oh, he's muted. Oh, no.
Mary.
Damn it.
It's the talkies.
Do it
It's the
again.
talkies, Mary.
I'm just learning to read.
Norma Tataki.
All right, what fucking page are we on? What day is it? Good Lord, how long has this been going on for? I'm sorry, what page?
73. Welcome to page 73.
73.
It was
73?
Yeah.
I left Reno 2 years ago today. This was a memorial dinner for you old Renoites and your new husbands.
I get it. Listen, there's no soup eating your heart, right, sister?
Mary, if I had a heroine in one of my books who behaved the way you do, my 2 readers would never believe it. No one man is worth it.
Say, the whole racket club's not worth it. Speaking of your dear husband, Howard, the skunk, can I have a whiskey and soda?
Make it 2.
I lay off when Howard's around. I'm weaning him from the bottle by easy stages. He's in the secondary stage now.
What stage is that?
He puts ice in.
How's matrimony, Miriam? Making a go of it?
I'm doing a reconstruction job on that makes Boulder Dam look like an egg cup.
Oh, Mary, can't we go off to the party? I have to get home early. Little John always wakes up. Little John said the cutest thing the other day. He said, "Da-da."
When does he enter Columbia?
Jane, tell Mrs. Winston the ladies are ready to go.
Mrs. Winston, ma'am, is drinking with the gentleman.
Well, tell her to come up.
What's the hurry? 2 more snootfuls and Flora will float up her own breath.
Oh, Mary, I wish you had an elevator in this house. It's so difficult to walk upstairs in my condition.
Edith, are you Catholic or just careless?
Mary, isn't this your old furniture?
Yes.
I think you should get rid of it. There's nothing that keeps a woman so in the dumps as sleeping in a bed with old associations. Mary, you're carrying this nunnery business too far. How do you expect to find anyone if you don't make an effort?
I don't want anyone, Edith. I hate men. Men are awful.
Oh, they're not all like Stephen, dear.
I saw plenty of men when I came back from Reno. They're all alike. They never leave you at your own front door without a wrestling match.
It beats me how, in a taxi, the nicest guy can turn to Harpo Marx.
You know, I asked Phelps about that once. I said, why does a man always act like a Don Juan in a taxi? And he said it was a hangover from their bachelor days when a man's sex life was conditioned by the click of the meter. Mary, want to hear something about Sylvia?
No.
Well, Sylvia's going to a psychoanalyst. She says you destroyed all her faith in friendship.
As if any woman needed to go to a psychoanalyst to find out she can't trust women.
Mary, you've grown awfully cynical.
Isn't wise the word? I'm beginning to understand women.
Too bad. That's the beginning of women's inhumanity to women.
Oh, they're going to talk philosophy. Peggy, come on in here with me while I powder my nose.
Edith, did I tell you how little John said, Dada?
Listen, I wouldn't care if this one was born reading Shakespeare.
Mrs. Moorhead.
Mrs. Moorhead.
Where's Mrs. Moorhead?
It's in the volume.
Agnes Moorhead.
She died in the 70s.
Yeah, right?
He's God, as it says on several buildings in Hollywood.
Middle page 75.
And then once you get your volume up, it'll help even more.
Oh dear.
There it is. Okay. Exit full screen. Okay. 75.
Peggy, let's walk very slowly.
Oh, this will be impromptu then. You don't say, she says.
No.
Oh.
Doesn't she say, oh, hello, girls?
Middle of 75.
Oh, okay.
Enjoy the movies, mother?
No.
75. Dang.
It's on.
She's still in the movie.
Oh, hello, girls. Hello, dear. Party over.
Enjoy the movies, mother?
I wish I could make up my mind whether or not I like the Beatles.
Beatles?
Wow. What? Oh, that's old.
Such a lovely dinner. It's so wonderful to see all my lives temporarily settled.
My mother, Mrs. Moorhead, Mrs. Winston, Mrs. Buck Winston.
Buck Winston?
The movie star.
Ah, yes. My granddaughter adores your son on the screen.
I dare say the public does see Buck as just a boy, and it is a trifle absurd me being married to a movie star. But Mrs. Moorhead, you wouldn't believe how many of my Newport friends who ridiculed Buck when I married him positively claw for invitations to Hollywood. May lie, east is east and west is west, but I always say le cinema is the great leveler.
You don't say.
Mrs. Moorhead, do whip into something and come along with Mary to my party. The casino roof. Everyone clamored to come. I have no idea who's going to be there.
Well, you're sure to know somebody. Later, dear?
Mary, you're not coming?
I'm very tired, Flora.
Oh, you're cross because Buck's had a wee droppy.
Don't be modest, Flora. Your groom is Stinko.
I do wish he wouldn't drink straight gin. You know he's not allowed to. Mr. Zanuck put that in the new contract.
Countess, you should have all marriage contracts drawn up by Mr. Zanuck.
Oh, Mary, do come. This is really our farewell party. I'm never coming back to New York.
What's wrong with New York, Flora?
Mary, can I trust you?
Of course, Flora.
You will keep this just between the four of us?
Shoot, Flora, it's a nationwide hookup.
Well, you know how Buck was so impassionate.
That boy had something.
Well, he hasn't got it anymore, Miriam. First, I thought it was just gin interfering with his libido. But now I think Buck is deceiving me.
Oh, incredible.
Well, I have no proof, except he comes home every afternoon smelling of a strange perfume.
Where does he say he's been?
Visiting his horse. But Trixie was shipped to Hollywood last week. You remember, I was photographed with her in the baggage car. Well, now he says he's going to Grand Central Gymnasium. But I telephoned today. Some great oaf answered. I said, "Is Buck Winston there?" He said, "Who?" "No." So I said, "My dear good man, he comes every day." So he said, "My mistake, lady. He's inside now, boxing with James Bond."
Poor Flora.
Oh, that's why I think it's safer just to keep floating around.
I understand. L'amour.
L'amour, yes, but jamais lopsided amour.
Lopsided amour is better than no amour at all. Flora, let him make a fool of you. Let him do anything he wants as long as he stays. He's taking the trouble to deceive you. And if he took the trouble, he really must have cared.
The voice of experience.
Come on, chin up.
That's right, both of them.
Oh, Cherise, you missed it. I was just saying, now will you just keep this among the six of us? I suspect Buck of being unfaithful. Of course, it's my own fault. I should have had him watched, the way I did all the others. I wish I'd found out where he'd had that apartment.
An apartment?
Where would you expect him to go? Central Park? Why, it's winter.
Oh, I've always heard people went to hotels.
Oh, but Sherry, Buck couldn't go to a hotel. You know what would happen. At the most inopportune moment, someone would say, "Mr. Winston, may I have your autograph?" It happened to us on our wedding night. I would have sent for the manager, but it was the manager asking for the autograph.
Darling, you really won't come to Flora's party?
No, Edith.
Oh, then I can tell you. Of course, you know how you feel about your ex and his New Deal, though I think you'd be glad that he's so happy.
I am.
Sylvia telephoned tonight. She and Crystal and Stephen are going on the roof with the theater party. Well, darling, I don't feel much like going myself. I loathe this dress. My husband says I look as though I were going to sing Wagner in it.
I think I'll go too, Mary. It's a good chance to study Park Avenue's flora and fauna. And I'm writing a new book. It's called Gone with the Iceman, or Sex Has No Place in the Home.
Listen, Queen, change your mind. Let's go out to the party.
No, Miriam.
Well, I'm going. Wish you could see the cooing fest Howard and I put on for Sylvia. Shall I spit in Crystal's eye for you? You're passing up a swell chance, sister. Where I spit, no grass ever grows.
Jane, turn down my bed.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mary have a nice time with her father?
Well, ma'am, you know how she is when she comes home.
I'm afraid she's never going to get used to it.
She takes after you, ma'am, if you'll pardon me. Always brooding. Sometimes, ma'am, I think it would be better if she didn't see her father. Or maybe, ma'am, though it's none of my business, if you could find some nice man.
Going to bed, darling?
Yes, Mother.
Shall we chat for a moment? Jane, I'll have a cigarette.
Mrs. Moorhead.
Those dreadful women make me nervous. Why Mrs. Haynes tolerates them even once a year is beyond me.
An object lesson, smoking, Mother?
Oh, you too?
Me too.
I just felt your father give me a spooky pinch. You'd think after 10 years his ghost might have grown more tolerant.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night, Jane.
Good night, Jane. Good book.
Don't know. Nancy just gave it to me. It's about love. Poetry, all about love. When love beckons to you, follow him. Though his ways are hard and steep, when his wings enfold you, yield to him. Though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden.
Well, all I can say is that's very tactless of Nancy. Oh, Mary, I wish you could find it.
Nice man. We've been all over that before, Mother. I had the only one I ever wanted. I lost him.
Wasn't entirely your fault.
If I hadn't listened to everyone, everything but my own heart.
He loved her.
He still does. Though, you know, Mother, I'm just beginning to doubt it.
Why?
Because so many people, like Edith, make a point of telling me how much he loves her. Oh, Mother, I'm terribly tired.
Well, do cheer up, darling. Living alone has its compensations. You can go wherever you please, wear what you please, and eat what you please. I had to wait 20 years to order the kind of meal I liked. Your father called it bird food. And heaven knows it's marvelous to be able to sprawl out in bed like a swastika. What a thing to say, even in a comedy. Good night, darling.
Good night, Mother.
Don't read by that light, you'll hurt your eyes.
Mother?
I believe that's my line. Mother,
Darling, what's the matter?
I had a bad dream.
Oh, darling, what was it?
I forget. Let me crawl in with you, Mother.
I'm so restless.
I don't mind if you kick me. You know, that's the only good thing about divorce. You get to sleep with your mother. I taste lipstick.
No, I haven't washed yet. Good night, darling.
You know, you're a very sympathetic mother.
Am I?
Oh, yes. So would you just tickle my back?
All right. Go to sleep.
She's so silly.
Ooh.
Crystal. I told Daddy so tonight.
Oh, you mustn't hurt Daddy's feeling.
Mother, I think Daddy doesn't love her as much as you anymore.
What makes you think so, Mary?
He told me after I saw Crystal.
What?
But he said I mustn't tell you because naturally, why do you care about how he feels? Oh, don't stop tickling, Mother. Mother.
Yes.
What's anyone want with a telephone in the bathroom?
I don't know. Shh.
Crystal has one. She was awful mad when I walked in on her while she was talking.
Sleep, Mary.
Mother, who's the Duchess of Windsor?
What a question.
Well, Crystal said on the telephone if somebody else was a countess, she was the Duchess of Windsor.
Really?
Good night, Mother.
Good night, baby.
I wonder if it was the same man you had for dinner.
Maybe. Shh.
I thought so.
If who was the same man?
Crystal was talking to so lovey-dovey.
Oh, Mary.
Well, the front part was the same, Mother.
The front part of what?
His name, Mother.
What are you talking about?
That man Crystal was talking to in the bathtub.
Mary, what do you mean?
I mean his front name was Buck, Mother. Oh, Mother, what are you doing?
Go to sleep, darling.
Grown-ups are so sudden. Are you dressing?
Yes, Mary.
You forgot you were invited to a party?
Almost, Mary.
What are you going to do when you get there, Mother?
I don't know yet, but I'm going to do something.
Well, have a good time. Mother?
Yes?
I remember now I had something to tell you.
Yes?
I was awfully rude to Crystal.
I'll forgive you this time.
You ring, ma'am.
Yes. My evening dress, Jane, and a taxi. Don't stand there gaping. Hurry, hurry.
The curtain falls. Act 2, Scene 5. Later the same night, in the powder room of the casino roof. The decoration is rich, tawdry, and modernistic. There is a swinging door to the lobby, another to the washroom. The rest of the wall space is taken up by counter-like dressing tables and mirrors. The rear wall is a great window overlooking the glitter of midnight Manhattan. An overstuffed sofa and an armchair upholstered in modernistic fabric is near the door. A screen hides the coat rack. By this, a chair for Sadie, a little old woman in a maid's uniform and apron. As the curtain rises, Sadie is reading a tabloid, which she puts down when two flashily dressed girls enter from the lobby. They check their wraps.
It's jammed.
My boyfriend will get a table.
My dear, won't he let you?
No, he won't.
Well, how incredibly foul.
I'm heartbroken. But I have to be philosophical. After all, missing one winter in Palm Beach really won't kill me.
Thought you and that boyfriend had a row.
We did.
What about?
His wife.
His wife? What right has he got to butt in? What right has she got to butt in?
He's got some cockneyed idea that after 20 years, he can't kick her out.
Oh,
Girl.
Cigarettes.
oh, sorry, that's me. Jeepers, why don't they get sick of this same joint night after night? The same music, the same act, the same faces.
Oh, they like familiarity. It gives them confidence.
I'll say they like familiarity. Most of them shoving around that floor would be more comfortable with each other in bed.
In bed? If they was to get that over, what would they do for conversation?
Dancing like that. What can those boys think of you?
Oh, Mother.
Guzzling champagne like that. And after all I spent on your education.
Oh, Mother.
It's one thing to come out. It's quite another to go under the table.
Getting married, dearie?
Jack?
You got it.
Jack.
I'm here. As soon as Mike gets a job, it ain't fair. Why, we could get married and have family on the coast. Sadie, what do you say if I was to tell you I'm a communist?
I'd say it was bats. Why, I was a Norman Thomas fan, you know, the famous socialist. Where'd it get me?
How could Buck do such a thing to me? Oh, the Dr. Jekyll, the Mr. Hyde. Which was which?
Pipe down or you'll put an awful dent in his career.
What of my career? I've had 5 husbands. Buck's the first one who ever told me what he really thought of me in public.
It takes all kinds of husbands to round out a career like yours, Flora.
He told me he'd been deceiving me for months, right in the middle of smoke gets in your eyes. Oh, I feel so superfluous.
Broma seltzer.
Bromo seltzer. Cake your sake, your car.
It will settle your superfluity. Flora, did he tell you the lady's name?
Unfortunately, Nancy, he's not that drunk.
And another drink for Mr. Winston.
No, Miriam. He wouldn't tell me her name because she's a married woman. Buck is very proletarian. He just said she was a natural blonde.
That ought to narrow down the field.
He said she was as pretty as a painted wagon.
Oh, you're a pretty damn colorful calope yourself.
Calliope.
Whatever. Ain't got the education.
You have more line, Miriam.
I don't want to say it. Okay, hold on. Snap out of it, Flora. You know you're going to forgive him.
I'd forgive unfaithfulness, but not base ingratitude. I rescued him from those prairies. I married him. What thanks do I get? He says he'll be a cockeyed coyote if he'll herd an old beef like me back to the coast.
Let this be your lesson. Don't let your next husband become financially independent of you.
Now, don't lecture me, Nancy. Every time I marry, I learn something. This has taught me once and for all. You can't expect noblesse oblige from a cowboy. Oh, my eyes, they're full of mascara.
We've got to get her home. I'll get Buck and meet us in the lobby. We're heading for the last roundup.
No, there's a telephone in there, and I'm going to call up Mr. Zanuck.
Now, Flora, what will he do?
I just want to remind him that he can't make a picture with Buck until I say so.
Why not?
I own Buck's horse.
Jack? What? Oh, I was waiting for the cowboy yell. What's it all about?
One gets you 10, some man.
But he isn't worth it.
You can always collect on that one.
Laughing and joking with those boys like that.
Yes, Mother.
I think of you.
Yes, Mother.
I think I didn't overhear that Princeton boy call me an old drizzle puss either.
She wants gin in her bromo seltzer.
Bristle's not in there. I don't think she's in the joint.
She's coming, I know it.
So what are you going to do when you find her?
I don't know, but I've got to find her tonight. Buck's going to Hollywood in the morning.
Say, why don't you settle this matter with Stephen?
I have no proof, I tell you, but if Buck is as drunk as you say, he'll give away something.
Listen, he's been trying all night to give away Flora to the doorman. Got a $20 bill?
Yes.
That'll get Buck locked up in the men's room till we need him.
Not three.
Where are the women?
Not 3 pounds?
3 pounds.
How divine. Aren't you a stack?
Yes, but it's more satisfaction. Just bananas and milk for 1 whole week. That called for enormous character.
Comes the revolution. She'll diet. Plenty.
I wish I hadn't come.
Well, your husband didn't want you to.
Flora was disgusting.
But it was funny. Even the kettle drummer was laughing. My dear, who could stand the life we lead without a sense of humor? But Flora is a fool. Always remember, Peggy, it's matrimonial suicide to be jealous when you have a really good reason.
Edith, don't you ever get tired of giving advice?
Listen, Peggy, I'm the only happy woman you know. Why? I don't ask Phelps or any man to understand me. How could I? How could he? I'm a woman. And I don't try to understand them. They're just animals. Who am I to quarrel with the way God made them? I've got security, and I say, what the hell? And let nature take its course. It's going to anyway.
So there we were on Saturday night, and it's Atlantic City. And he says, I gotta go home tomorrow, baby. And I says, what you got to? And he says, my wife always expects me home on Easter Sunday. So I says, what does she expect you to do? Lay an egg?
They got no sentiment.
Have you got a safety pin? I was never so embarrassed.
So I told him, I had a great career until you made me give up the stage, you lunkhead. For what? A couple of cheesy diamond bracelets, a lousy car, which every time it breaks down, you gotta have the parts shipped over from Italy?
It practically popped out into the soup. So my escort says, don't look now, you've just dropped something. If only it had been the left one. It's so much better.
Just a minute, please.
Steven is in the mood.
Oh, sorry. He can take it and like it.
Does it show now?
Not what it did before, miss.
Thank you.
My mouth on straight?
Crystal, you didn't need to come here to see somebody, did you?
Oh, Sylvia, can't you lay off for a minute?
Mrs. Haynes, this is a great pleasure.
I beg your pardon.
Such a lovely party. I was afraid you weren't coming. Mrs. Fowler, Mrs. Haynes, Mrs. Fowler, Mrs. Fowler.
Charmed.
This is absurd.
Modern life is complicated. When you came in, I was just telling Miriam.
Oh, come along, Sylvia. The lady is tight.
Mary, when did you begin drinking?
Early in the evening with Mr. Winston. You know Mr. Winston, don't you?
I'm afraid I don't.
Of course you do, Crystal. I introduced you to him. Don't you remember?
Oh, yes, at a cocktail party.
Well, he's in the lobby now, waiting for someone, Mrs. Haynes, and drunker than you can possibly imagine. You'd find him very difficult to handle in front of Stephen.
Crystal, where are you going?
I won't stand here and listen to dribble.
I wouldn't go in there either, Mrs. Haynes. Buck's wife is in there now having hysterics. She's found out that Buck has been deceiving her.
Really? What has that got to do with me?
A good deal, I'm afraid. You seem to be the woman.
Why, Crystal, are you?
If he used my name, it's a lie. He's just the cheap sort.
Tomorrow it will be common gossip. I don't think Stephen's going to like it.
Oh, Crystal, he's going to loathe it. But my psychoanalyst is going to adore it.
What are you trying to do? Pin something on me in front of witnesses?
Whatever she's driving at, Crystal, that little tramp had put her up to it.
Keep out of this.
Yeah, check it, Sylvia. We're minor league this evening.
All right, Mrs. Haynes, you've been listening to the ravings of a conceited fool. What did he tell you?
Really, Mrs. Haynes, this is very embarrassing.
Yes, Mrs. Haynes, isn't it? Exactly what do you think you know about me?
Everything.
And why are you standing here talking to me? You ought to be outside spilling it to Stephen. You're bluffing. Come along, Sylvia.
That's very good advice. I will tell Stephen.
Of course he wouldn't believe you.
Oh, you can't tell Crystal. He's terribly fond of Mary.
Now get this straight, Mrs. Haynes. You handed me your husband on a silver platter, but I'm not going to return the compliment. I like what I've got, and I ain't going to keep it, and I'm going to keep it. I can't be stampeded by gossip. What you believe and what Stephen believes will cut no ice in a divorce court. You need proof, and you haven't got it. When Mr. Winston comes to his senses, he'll apologize, and Stephen will have no choice but to accept my explanations. Now that's that. Good night.
I hope Mrs. Winston will accept your explanations.
What have I got to explain to her?
What about the apartment?
What apartment?
You know as well as I do.
Oh, stop trying to put two and two together.
Oh, Mrs. Winston did that. She had you watched. She's seen you both.
Seen us both? Doing what?
Going in, coming out.
Going in and coming out of where? You're lying.
I wouldn't be so sure, Crystal.
Sounds like the McCoy to me, Crystal.
Shut up.
Oh, Crystal, why didn't you just confide in me?
Sylvia, didn't she?
Certainly not. She's the cat that walks alone. Why, Crystal, I could have told you someplace much safer than the Gothic apartments.
Why, you big loudmouth idiot.
How dare you?
I'd like to slap your stupid face.
Oh, how dare you? Oh, Mary, how dare she?
Oh, I've got a job to do, Flora. Kiss you when I get back, Sylvia.
And I'll explain the facts of life to Stephen.
You're trying to break up my marriage.
The way you did hers, you floozy.
Well, maybe you're welcome to my leftovers.
I'll take them. Thank you.
Oh, why, Mary, haven't you any pride?
That's right. No pride. That's a luxury a woman in love can't afford.
Oh, you horse thief!
Flora, it's really too bad.
You painted wagon!
So you're determined to have a scandal, Mrs. Haynes.
I'm the one who's going to have the scandal. Why, Mary, she's no more of a blonde naturelle than I am. What's the creature's name? Miriam forgot to tell me.
Mrs. Stephen Haynes, currently.
Is that the thing Stephen left you for? Well, Sherry, all I can say is, you're an idiot. I hope I never live to see the day when an obvious piece like that conquers me on the shops d'Amour.
You were lying. That old fool didn't know about us.
I'm afraid she didn't.
There's a gentleman called Mr. Haynes. He said he's been waiting a long time for his wife.
I am coming.
Mary, what a dirty female trick you played.
Yes, from the great noble little woman. You're just a cat like the rest of us.
I've had 2 years to sharpen my claws. Jungle Red, Sylvia. Good night, ladies.
The curtain falls, then rises to find Crystal and Sylvia pulling hair.
Ah! Ow!
That was awesome.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I hope you had fun.
Countess, you were
Thank you
fabulous.
so much for asking, Jack.
Yes, thank you, Jack.
Thanks,
Fabulous.
Jack.
I don't know what day it is, but who wants breakfast?
We get a
some of
medal.
the things in that property list look pretty good right now.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
Astringent and Kleenex, blue atomizer.
Yes.
From now on,
Gotta have those.
I'm calling this play Little Mary from now on.
No
Little
argument.
Mary.
And you can see her in the loose lots.
Brian, you and I will have to practice our scene more.
Oh, why, yes, of course we will, darling.
God.
I'll scratch your back.
When you tickle my back, I'll... Anyway. Scratch your... Oh, mummy.
That scene
Dirty
definitely got
play.
altered for the production code.
All right, good night, you guys. It's been
Wait.
fun.
Before you go, Jack, does anybody, if you have a glass, can we raise a glass a sec?
Wait, I'll get one. Don't go away.
Great job, everybody. But all right, I'll wait.
Imaginary glass is fine, Brian.
Imaginary glass is just fine. It was so much fun. Thank you for including me. I don't want to get maudlin, but 31 years ago tonight, we lost somebody we all love. And yeah, so let's raise a glass to that lady.
And she was so great in The Women.
Yeah.
Today is Anita Luce's birthday. Anita Luce wrote the screenplay.
Oh, I feel like we should do stage door. Speaking of Lucy.
She was a good friend of Lucy, so and she remembered to send those roses even though she was dying. I mean,
Hey, Charles.
Right, next up, stage door.
Someone speaking.
Charles Ellis is speaking. Charles Ellis, one of the leading authorities on Dark Shadows.
hello? Can you
Oh,
hear me?
Rudy.
Sweetheart, off away from
Hi.
Brooklyn. Did you enjoy the play?
We lost him again.
Yes, you enjoyed the play. All right, Rick, a toast to Lucille Ball.
You guys have a good night.
Yeah.
Night, guys.
Listen, it's Cal Burnett's birthday.
What, sweetheart?
It's Cal Burnett's birthday today.
Yes, Carol Burnett's birthday today.
You know how
And the day Lucy passed away. And yeah.
you know how old Carol is?
Sorry, they were good friends, right? Okay.
Next caller.
Next.
Carol Burnett got flowers from Lucy. She had placed the order before she died.
Did she?
Well, they're old friends.
They were old friends, yeah. And the roses arrived on. This is a true story. Lucille Ball passed away, and Carol Burnett got the news that she had passed away. But these flowers arrived for her on her birthday, Carol Burnett's birthday, from Lucy, because she did it every year. So there's so kind of melancholy sadness that these flowers arrive after the fact. And that is a true story. Yes.
Oh,
Thanks.
there's two great ladies, two great redheads who made us laugh for years, and they still do.
Right on.
Yes, you
And
bet. All right, Lucy and Carol, God love you. All
Randy,
right,
Randy
Bye.
hated
Off
the
to
Academy Walk? Wow.
Good night, folks.
Good job, everybody.
Good night, Charles.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Good night, you guys. We're making this a regular thing.
I'd love it. Count me in.
Groovy.
Yeah, it was fun. It was totally fun.
I loved it.
Thank you, Richard.
for inviting
Thank you,
me,
Jack.
Jack, and glad it worked out for Max Pierce and Rick and and Charles. Listen, he's no slouch either. Charles could be in one of these things. Why don't you send a note to Jack Fields?
I did.
And,
I started
tell
a
him-
Facebook group.
You guys would really get on. He's into the old movies and stuff. You'd love him, Jack. These guys.
What would I play? Heaven forbid.
We'll pick some, but listen, you could do anything. Don't give me that. And you know it. Don't worry. Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got one confession. I was disappointed you guys weren't in drag, because, hey, a few months ago, I went to see a Charles Bush show.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Well, listen, maybe it'll happen. Listen, it's we've probably all done drag at some point.
Yeah. Wait, the big surprise to me was, okay, I must confess, when I first heard you were going to do the women, I assumed you were going to do the 1939 screenplay, but not the original play.
We couldn't find the screenplay.
Yeah, Jack knows the story of this one.
Oh.
What happened? Jack said the screenplay was unavailable to do this.
We couldn't find it.
Oh, or I thought maybe some kind of ownership issue with Warner Brothers, since they own the MGM movie.
Yeah, well, we're all being, this is such a multi-million-dollar thing, so I'm sure they care.
Well, congratulations. You got Okay, well, see
Guys,
you later.
So, all right. Well, yes, definitely. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Yeah. Jack, he's a great guy. He's great. You should get in touch with him because he would really be an asset to as was Max. Look, was I wrong about Max? No.
Thank you, Richard.
So there you go. All right. Hi, James, and I have not met you, but my friend Bill knows who you are. James Gavin.
Wait,
so
friend
hello. Bill
Hello,
Graff.
James.
Wait, say that again.
Bill Graff. He knows who you are.
Oh, yes,
He
of
said
course.
he knows.
I know who he is. Oh, how sweet. It's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, he was supposed to come over here while I was doing this, and I guess he disappeared. I don't know. So.
Ah, damn it.
But we live very close to each other.
Oh, nice. Well, I hope we're all together soon.
Yeah, I do too. Listen, Jack, thank you so much again for inviting
Thank you, Jack.
me.
I started a Facebook group called the Quarantine Theater Company, and we're doing these like every couple of weeks.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
Did I join it? Did you send a thing or no?
I'll send you an invite right now.
Send it because I'll totally join it. Yeah, and if you could do Charlotte, that would be great. Do that. Or any of those like Sunset Boulevard, any of those plays would be. And who might be
out of fairness, I think I need to do an all-female 12 Angry Men.
Oh yeah.
Do it. 12 Angry Women. Yeah, do that. And also, I think Jackie Beat was excited about trying to tune into this.
Okay.
And she's got a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I think she'd be good in one of these things as well. She's done a bunch of these types of things. So yeah, but I'm happy to participate. Whatever you need, you just let me know, and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Guys.
Good night.
Good night, loves. All
Bye.
right.